worry about it. I got this shit covered. Hi again to YouTube.
Yay!
Hello again. We're back.
Yeah,
Oh.
strange black screen, but we're back. It's all good.
Aha, there we are.
I could do some damage to a keg of that, Tricky.
Yeah.
That's nice, that, mate.
No,
Right. Okay. Who's doing the intro?
Not me.
Andy's suffering.
Owen?
Oh, fuck.
Owen, you're up.
Yeah, I'll do the intro.
Okay, gentlemen.
Yes.
3. Ready for Audacity?
Hold on, I got two open.
Wait.
Oh, fucking hell. I'm telling you, the preparedness of my co-host just leaves me astounded every time.
Yeah, preparedness.
Right, I'm ready to hit the button.
It is now. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay.
Good eve. What?
When you're ready. When you're ready.
We're
Sorry.
on.
You had a little interruption there.
Hey, 1, 2, test.
False start.
Ball bag.
Ball bag.
Ball bag. That's it. That's mine. Mine, baby.
Right. Silence. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Hop Edition podcast episode 35. And today, this morning, whenever you're listening to us, we are going to be covering the subject of how to cock up a brew day or a beer. So we're going to talk about all those whoopsie moments that might cause your beer to come out a little bit not so good. I'm sure we've got plenty in the bag to pull out between us all.
Plenty of experience. Plenty.
How are we all doing this evening, chaps?
I think most of us are doing better than Andy. That's how we're doing.
I'm pretty sure the dead people are doing better than Andy right now.
I'm so tired.
Looks worse than he sounds, and he sounds pretty bad.
I do. I actually feel quite rough. But I was getting nipped out my nut last night at Brewing. Yeah,
you went to the fantastic Scottish brewery Overtone.
Yeah, really, the bringing proper craft beer into Glasgow, I think, is what I would say. So yeah,
as in they make a lot of nippers,
make a lot of juicy bad boys and stouts and sours, imperials, and a wee cheeky lager now and again as well. So. Yeah.
Why do they have to be bad boys? Why can't they be bad girls? I much prefer bad girls.
No, there is. It's a really good team there, actually. Meeting them all last night. So, yeah, everyone. No,
Chris, I thought you were trying to sort of make some sort of really passionate stand about equality in brewing, and then you followed it up very shortly with a fairly misogynistic comment about bad girls.
What? How is that misogynistic? It's my sexual preference.
Okay.
Oh dear.
I like.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Oh, absolutely. Bad boys.
I guess that's Andy's debrief from the weekend.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I went to BrewCon the previous weekend, so I've probably only just recovered from the hangover from that one, but it was good fun. Met up with a couple of the friends of the pod, Brett and Jamie, and got some free loot as well. This was the one that I was most happy with.
Can we please give them their proper names? It's Brett the Bollard and Tyson Fury.
So shout out to Martin Rape from the Malt Miller who hooked me up with this when I was probably just to get rid of me.
Yeah, that's a nice kind of good one for cask beers as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like one of those you hit folks with in the pub when you.
Well, we were drinking their 5 points best at the time, and I only had one of these shitty little like taster cups, and I just sort of went, "Oh, this is not really adequate, is it, Martin?" And then he handed me one of those. I was like, "Yeah."
Get it filled.
That was it. So
Brilliant. I'm pretty sure I saw a fairly cheeky little photo of you on Facebook earlier.
yes, I think that was after having quite a few of those samples. Actually, it was.
You were looking a little bit merry.
Yeah.
That's great.
No,
great.
So it was good then, Tricky?
Yeah, good event. It was. It's not quite as well attended by the retailers and manufacturers and stuff this year. I think obviously there's still a little bit of a thing with COVID and everything. The Irish companies particularly not as represented and things like that. So not quite as much stuff there, but it was a really good venue. It was Hackney Brewery and Wildcard who are hosting it, and they're basically literally opposite each other on Industrial Estate in Walthamstow.
Hold up. Walthamstow,
yes.
As in E17.
As in E17, yes.
Outstanding.
And we bumped into Jager, who's the head brewer at Wildcard, and had a chat with her outside as well, who is presenting that Beer Masters series.
Beer Masters, outstanding.
So that
I love
outstanding on
Wildcard.
that.
Yeah,
it's a great brewery. I think it's actually called, to the locals, it's called Awesome Stow. So
there you go. Fun fact.
We all held his face for as long as we could there, mate. I mean, I've been there, it's not.
He's 17. Come on, guys. Forget Wildcard.
You got to go away. Don't think I can take the pain. There you go. Bit of E17 for you.
Lovely.
Right then. So, we've done the intro. What we all drinking?
Right, we're drinking.
This is the first time the four of us have been together since we were in that brew shed right there that Chris is sat in.
Whilst Johnny Pollock was sat with his gob underneath the tap.
The Marzen killer.
And you wondered why that Marzen kit.
Kingslayer.
Yeah, and just for Andy's reference, and for those of you on the video, that's the proper amount of head to have on a pint, right?
Yeah.
Because if the head starts here, you've done something wrong, eh, Andy?
So there's something wrong with Chris's lines. They're a bit short. I think it's because he's a tight Yorkshireman, you know. He's cut back in his lines. So there's an actual trick where you actually have to submerge the glass in the pint, and then it gives you a nice head. Whereas mine, you don't need to do that.
It's the secret method, isn't it?
It's a secret, yeah. So once I'd got into that, then I wasn't getting half pints or anything like that out of Chris's kegerator.
That's how you pull a lager, you twerp.
What about IPAs?
I don't make IPAs.
You had a pale. You had American.
A pale ale.
Oh yeah, okay, American pale ale.
Yeah.
It was a hoppy pale.
It was quite hoppy.
Yeah. Anyway, it was amazing.
As I remember, Andy, I'm not sure if anyone else had this problem. It seems to just be you.
It must just be the coming south, the pressure difference and all that sort of thing.
That's what it is. I mean,
you live isn't it down there?
You live at sea level. I'm 300 meters above it. But yeah. Okay, so gentlemen, what are we drinking tonight? I'll tell you what we're drinking tonight. I don't want anybody else to answer this. We're drinking a beer which is genuinely taking my fancy. I'm liking this. And this just so happens to be, for those of you on the video, this is a tricky hop tester. So we've got no clue what the hops are that are in this. And this is going to be me, Owen, and Andy basically sounding like a bunch of twerps trying to interpret this beer to discover what the hop is. So,
I think this is going to be a tricky one for you as well. So, let's see how you get on.
What you got, Andy?
So it's kind of, I don't know, I've had this smell of Tricky's beer before, but it's almost, I think it's maybe the crystal malts that's going into it that's giving the sweetness on the nose.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I'll just let you know one thing. The normal recipe that I did have to change the base malt. It's Golden Promise rather than lager malt.
I did clock that actually.
So
because
it is a bit sweeter.
I brewed your recipe actually a couple of weeks ago. Was it last week? Anyway, And I saw that you'd been using Pilsner malt, and when I poured this beer, I did clock that it had GP on it. I was like, oh, was there a typo or some issue with the recipe? But no. So I do wonder if that's the
I
sweetness.
ran out of lager malt, but I think it definitely adds a little bit of sweetness on the nose as well as
It does.
sweetens up the sort of the flavour from the hops a little bit too. So, but anyway.
Yeah, so the hot, so in the nose, it's more that sweetness that I'm getting, but not much. So it's not super pungent, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think the aroma's pretty restrained on these ones.
It's almost like it's almost coming across as kind of like a caramelly kind of aroma.
Yeah.
But I'm picking up kind of, I guess, a lychee kind of vibe. But probably after very, very clear like raspberry. It's not blackberry, it's definitely raspberry.
Yeah.
Or some sort of kind of red currant vibe going on.
Well, on the bit that I sort of pre-record before we do this, for my little bit of the review, you've named 2 of the things so far that I picked up on the aromas, so that's reassuring.
Yeah, that's good. But it is quite restrained, but then it is 100 grams that you're using total in the brew, so...
Yeah, I think it needs to be a really, like, pungent and quite powerful hop for the aroma to kick through, bearing in mind it's like 45 grams dry hop or something, and, only about 30 in the whirlpool. So, it's not heavily hopped by any stretch of the imagination, but anyone getting anything else off of it?
I think I've narrowed this down. I think I've narrowed this down to 1 or 2 hops.
Oh, he's going straight in with which hops he thinks it is. Blimey.
I'm pretty certain I know what I think it is as well.
It's either Barber Rouge.
Interesting.
Is it Barber Rouge?
What now?
Barber Rouge. It's a French hop. It was first cultivated in about 2013, 14, 15, somewhere around about there. But it never really made it until last year when they got a decent crop of it. That's quite nice. That tends to give you a bit of kumquat, which I'm not getting, and it gives you lime, which I'm not really getting either. Or it's Mistral, because I'm getting a faint hint of rose.
Ooh, interesting. It wasn't either. My guess is neither of those. So I'm going to guess with an Australian hop, and I'm going to guess Enigma.
Okay, interesting.
Because I think it gives you red currant, and I am picking up a little bit of a white wine thing.
Are you getting any lime? Because if you're not getting lime, it's probably not.
I'm not getting lime. Maybe lime.
Andy, what do you think flavour-wise? Are you just getting the same sort of thing as the aroma, or?
No, it's quite fruity, kind of almost. I don't know if it is a black currant it's leaning more towards, or
no, I'm getting orange.
You're getting orange, like grapefruit?
No, orange. Definitely not grapefruit. Tangerine, orangey grapefruit. But that is my brain's default, so I could be wrong.
Because I'm thinking if it's it's a UK hop. Like Jester or something like that, possibly.
Okay, that's interesting.
Just answer me one question, Tricky.
Yeah.
What was the AA on a hop?
Oh, shit. That's a good question. Bear with me 1 second.
It's probably not a UK.
Have any of us,
Tricky,
have we guessed the region correctly? Of any of us?
It depends how narrow you want to make the region in terms of guessing. So it's European. But nobody's named the country yet.
So is it German, like Hallmelon or something?
Is it a German hop?
Is it Polish?
Nope, but you're getting warmer.
Slovenia?
Oh, no.
So it's 10% AA on this.
Oh, right.
Styrian Cardinal?
Nope.
Monroe.
Endeavour?
Nope.
Now we're just naming hops.
Okay, so The person who's got closest, although it's not this hop or from this country, is Andy, because he said Jester, and this is a sister hop to Jester and Olicana, I think. Just checking that.
Is it called Flyer?
No.
No.
So, any more thoughts on this before I let you know what it actually is?
I really like it, so whatever it is, I'm going to buy it.
It's gorgeous. I'm really enjoying it.
I would like literally used the descriptors red currant, berries, raspberry, hedgerow, just like all of you have. And I think this is probably the beer that, and I thought it was going to go the other way. I thought because it was quite subtle that we might, people might be picking out all sorts of random stuff for this one.
Yeah.
But actually, this seems to be the beer that we've got the most consistent agreement in terms of aroma and flavor profile, which is quite interesting.
Just before you say it, anybody else getting a hint of strawberry?
Yeah.
And I was just about to say the other thing that I mentioned when I was doing the tasting of it on video was strawberry, and I specifically said it reminded me of the freeze dried strawberries you get in breakfast cereals and stuff. So not like not like that fresh strawberry thing. That's slightly more kind of concentrated, sort of tangy, sort of strawberry taste you get from
freeze dried strawberry.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very specific, but that was just the thing that came to mind when I tasted. But I like I said, definitely said red currant and raspberry and all those.
Are we going to watch your video on this and you're going, yeah, freeze dried strawberry?
Is
pretty
it
much? Yeah.
Is it Godiva?
No, it's not a UK hop. So
Belma?
Nope.
Right, go on.
Shall I give the game away? So this is a hop called Most. Anyone heard of that before?
No,
I'm not buying it now.
It's from the Czech Republic, so it's
cool.
a Czech hop, and it's bred from a UK variety, so it's sister of Jester and Olicana, and Most is apparently Czech for bridge, and it was done sort of post Brexit as a kind of building a bridge between the UK and Czech hop brewers, despite the UK leaving the EU. So.
Tenuous political.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we keep politics out of beer, please?
And the descriptors on the Charles Farram site for this, they mention strawberry and bubblegum with some tropical and citrus fresh tones. Weirdly, in the sort of little box with additional information, they seem to pick out a completely different set of characteristics, which are blackcurrant, grapefruit, and pineapple. But I'm definitely more with the berries and the kind of hedgerow thing on this one. Maybe a very slight touch of sort of spice and earthiness in the background, but I wouldn't have sort of immediately gone Czech of noble heritage with this one at all. So I wouldn't have picked it out as being from the Czech Republic myself without obviously knowing that beforehand. But I do think it's really nice hop. So
it's almost like they're trying to now get their own sort of tropical hops, the future mosaic citrus in their own country.
Can I just say, if there's anyone in New Zealand listening and they can get hold of a rhizome of this, please just grow it in New Zealand. Because I'll be honest, it'll be a 22% alpha acid and it'll blow everyone's head off. It's really nice.
I thought that this would work quite nicely in a wheat beer or sort of light lagers and things like that. Pale ales like this one seems to do quite well.
It'd be really nice in a pilsner.
I'm not sure it's quite punchy enough to sort of headline an IPA or a a NEPA or something like that, but maybe as a base layer perhaps. It's one of the few European hops that I could see as part of a kind of hazy pale ale recipe or something like that, and actually delivering some of that kind of juicy fruit flavor if you layered it up with something else. Maybe I don't know what you think about that.
I'm with Chris. I think that'll really suit like a potentially a dry hopped pilsner or a dry hopped lager. I think that'd be great.
Right, who lives in Beirut? Come on.
Yeah,
sorry.
Somebody's got the Kalashnikovs going off outside.
That's me. My wife she can't get enough of the AK.
It's the Southampton ghetto.
Yeah.
It's always fun times in Southampton.
That's all those cheap fuckers buying the fireworks on discount a week after fireworks night, isn't
Why would you not?
it?
Oh,
Anyway, so I guess that's the hop tester wrapped up.
Yep, very nice.
Did anyone was anyone on the chat drinking it at the same time? Because I know there was a few bottles floating around.
I don't think anybody's got it left, mate. I think it's just me. I've got them all.
Well, I gave out a couple
at
at BrewCon as well. So Brett and Jamie had one, but I don't know if they got one opened in time. No, it doesn't look like it. Anyway,
we're getting pretty niche on the hop varieties.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's just outstanding. It amazes me every time I go look up lists of hops and stuff, for just how many hops there are that I just have never heard of.
Yeah, to be fair, we're not going to run out of
Ridiculous.
options for doing these hop tester beers anytime soon. There's plenty.
It's
out there.
bonkers.
And there's a lot of hops that we've probably all tried that you've maybe never had as a single hop in a beer as well that could probably be revisited.
As this warms up, it seems to be getting more pungent as well on the flavour.
Okay.
There was no time for mine to warm up, unfortunately.
It's
I've
nuts
got
already.
another couple of bottles. You want me to email one to you, Owen?
Email me one. Yeah, I'd love a.
So should we
delivery.
crack on with
Yeah, let's do
how
it.
to wreck a beer, or I guess we're more interested in telling people how not to wreck a beer, probably, but most of this is probably going to be driven through experience of doing the latter.
I mean, this is going to be 6-5 and pick 'em as to whether or not we're simply saying this is how you fuck up a beer or this is how you don't fuck up a beer. It's a question of of observable angle. This one, isn't it? Really. So, essentially, there are a few key points that you need to take into account when it comes to brewing beer. As a general rule, whilst you are drinking, alcohol is not your friend.
Whilst you're brewing,
alcohol is not your friend.
Was it me, or did you just say whilst you're drinking, alcohol is not your friend?
I think I heard that as well. Probably
both
also
apply.
true.
Both apply.
Yeah.
But yeah, while you're brewing, alcohol is not your friend. There are far too many times. I mean, I personally have done it. I've screwed up and thrown all my hops in at 60 minutes and completely ruined a beer.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you've got to... I was doing one of my heavy hopped IPLs, and I literally had 3 bowls full of hops on the table, and I just threw one in, and then without even thinking, picked up my glass, had a drink, threw another one in. And then about 2 minutes later, picked up and threw another one in. And it was like, I looked at my watch, like, 56 minutes of the boil left. Yeah,
Do you know what I find with getting on the beers too early with a brew day? Even if you manage to get through the brew successfully, normally the end part, like cleaning up and putting everything away, goes completely to shit. And then the next day you wake up and it's probably going to be the brew afterwards that's fucked because your equipment is so soiled and
manky,
ruined that gives you a lot of extra work to do usually when you have.
That's very, very insightful.
To be fair, it's not wrong though, is it?
No, I mean, Tricky's bang on. That's a man speaking from experience, right?
Many experiences of that. Yeah,
that is definite experience speaking.
There's a lot of the live brew days that end that way for some reason. I can't think why, but yeah.
I'm sure a lot of my early videos on YouTube, it's just me getting pissed whilst brewing at night, and it's just like, just no.
To be fair, like I like to live dangerously, and because as you know, I normally brew late in the evening, so I will normally drink whilst I brew.
And how many?
But it's never heavy drinking. It's normally like I'll have 1 or 2 beers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but is that caused any issues?
Unless
idea of not heavy drinking,
4 dippers or something. And
he's got a tap of 11% sitting there.
Nothing under 14%, Owen. Yeah.
Basically, if it's weaker than wine, it's not worth drinking.
Well, there we go. The other thing is kind of brewing hungover.
Yes.
It's not your friend, you know, because I mean, speaking from personal experience as well, I normally get kind of halfway through the mash and then just go, can't be asked.
Yeah. I had a brew day like that recently. I was just like, I just sort of mashed in. I was like, why am I doing this? I'm not sure if I can be bothered.
It's you forget so much stuff as well. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you forget to do all your water salts or something daft like that because
Yeah.
you're just that
Yeah,
hungover.
you
You
always
get
miss stuff
halfway,
like that, don't you?
yeah, you get halfway through the mash and you realise, oh, I've not even done any kind of pH correction.
It's
or
you turn around
salts
and
or-
see the pot of like salt still sat on the side and the acid that you haven't added in, and then that hop addition that you missed halfway through, and it's like, yeah.
Or
This
just
isn't going so well.
completely forget to take any measurements at all, which, I mean, I appreciate that's Chris's general
That's just
mantra.
his style, isn't it?
Yeah, you're just like, oh, crap, I forgot to do pre-boil gravity. I forgot to do original gravity.
Yeah. So
The thing I
hungover
usually
sort of
have
best.
with either either being drunk or hungover for brew days is poor management of taps being open or closed when they shouldn't be,
Yeah.
and ending up with a lot of wort or water or whatever else all over the floor because you're just like filling vessels up that are just pouring straight back out onto the fucking
Man, I
garage
mean,
floor.
that's a flipping nightmare with the brew tool system because you got like flipping
many.
valves all over the place. There's so many, and they're three-way valves as well. So you're just like staring at them for 2 minutes, going, I don't know. You're like paralyzed. You can't even make a decision. It's great.
I wouldn't say the brew tools is a sort of hangover friendly bit of equipment, really, is it? It's
definitely not.
I mean,
Did
thank
I,
God I only have
on your
2
game?
taps. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah.
You guys must remember my hungover brew not so long ago after I've been to Stewie's with Brett the Bollard and
Oh yeah.
G-Man. And I decided to, what I tell you is brewing hungovers not too bad, but if you decide in the morning to just do an on-the-fly brew where you're like writing the recipe more or less like whilst you're doing the brew day prep whilst hungover, it's not going to end well. And I attempted to brew what I think was a fruited milkshake sour.
What could possibly go wrong there?
Yeah.
Which neither ended sour or fruity. Which I hopped with Tetnang.
Spicy.
Yeah, so hasten to add that didn't even make a keg. That didn't even make it to the keg. That was just,
I mean,
Oh,
it
dear.
might have got better.
So
it had it was full of acetaldehyde. It was just an absolute car crash.
It's a fruited beer. Of course, it's going to taste like apples.
Except there was no apple in it.
What can you
those
do?
things that seem like a good idea when you're under the influence of alcohol don't always pan out, do they?
no.
They never pan out.
I
mate.
made it through the brew day though, so yeah.
So you could say that was the 5 P's or the 6 P's, Chris?
It's the 7 P's to success.
The 7 P's.
Piss poor
The 7
planning
Ps.
prevents.
Prior
Oh,
preparation
no.
and planning prevents piss poor performance.
Oh, that's the one.
Yep.
I had it the wrong way around.
Yours works. It's fine.
Is that a US military?
No,
saying?
that's a University of Surrey. When you're
Oh,
going out drinking.
All
So,
right.
so if you're brewing in the morning, I take it, do you guys then have everything? I'll normally get the night before. I'll then get all my grains crushed, do my water salts, that
You're
sort of thing.
assuming I'm organised. No.
All right, so
Yeah.
so they add
Do
the
as he
advice they're
says,
giving
not as he
people. Yeah,
does,
yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Is Chris's motto, I think. Should be.
Chris doesn't follow the 7 Ps.
No, I do. That's the thing. I start my RO collecting normally at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's normally done by about 8:30, 8:45. And then whilst the water's heating up, I'll grey out the grain. The recipe's all done. I know where everything is. And I follow a logical route that works for me based on the fact I have 2 kids that never leave me the fuck alone.
Chris, the recipe was done about 2 years ago, mate.
Fairly certain we all have
3
2
years
kids
ago,
that
yeah.
don't leave us the fuck alone.
Yeah.
No, I do always crush the grain or try to crush the grain the night before as well, Andy. But
Yeah.
that's mainly because I know that if I leave it till the morning,
Oh, it's a bollock.
inevitably the battery on the drill will be flat, whether I've charged it or not.
Oh,
And then I'm just like, fuck. Let's put
Proper
everything back by
screwed.
an hour at least.
Well,
You're like
the
hand
risk
cranking.
is.
Get the cord
the-
in. No, fuck the hand crank. That
Oh
shit's
man, you just
brutal.
no one. Has anyone watched Hops and Gnarly, the YouTube channel?
Yep.
How he has not bought an electric drill yet? I just feel like commenting, going, please, for the love of God, buy an
Did he
electric drill.
Did he not get the grandfather thing?
I don't know whether he just is one of these. He seems a little bit hipster. Maybe he's just sort of into the traditional approach, you know.
I tried using the hand crank once and then throwing so much grain all over the floor within about 2 seconds. I was just like, fuck that.
Yeah,
no, he seems like a real legit, lovely guy over at Hops and Gnarly.
Yeah,
I'm only teasing.
If you haven't checked him out, no, it's good.
I just find, if you're doing the prep in the morning, you're just leaving yourself such a small window for problem solving. If there is an issue, that you just you're basically screwed if you end up hitting a major problem.
I do try and prep beforehand. Just never works.
And how many abandoned brew days have you had, Chris, so far?
Oh mate, I don't think there's enough numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
But the problem is, I don't normally get the time of an evening beforehand to do the prep. So
yeah, that's true.
I just have to get it done on the day or don't do a brew day,
Yeah.
So anyway, let's break this down into sections. So under prep, so the prepping for a brew day, we most definitely have not doing any prep, obviously covering the 7 Ps at that point. And then we have the next one, which I will admit I am an absolute master at, okay, which is doing a bad job. All right. Half Bob job or half job Bob. That's me. I never go half job when it comes to sanitation or cleaning. I never go half job when it comes to actually sorting stuff out. But as far as measuring shit, nope, I ain't got time for that crap. I ain't got time. I don't care either, to be perfectly honest. I know that my system's going to give me efficiency somewhere between 78 and 82%. And I'll be honest, I don't care. If I'm
you don't actually work at your gravities and all that, do you, Chris?
What's the point?
You go, I know I like a 4 point something beer, and it normally is that, so that's what I use.
Yeah. I mean, I have measured some. I have measured the pH. I do measure the pH of the water once it's been collected. But measuring that shit during a brew day, I'm normally trying to kick a child off my foot. I can't do that. I ain't got time for that. I ain't got the time for it.
So
I've got the brew book out.
You don't know the exact percentage of your beers, technically speaking.
Not a clue.
All right, so it's just a sort of range.
To be fair, the first 5 that I did with this new system, I measured pre-boil, post-boil, final, and all of them were pretty much either bang on or 1 point out from what I got in Brewfather. And at that point, I went, I can save 30 minutes on my brew day here. So I didn't bother.
I'm not sure it takes 30 minutes to take a pre-boil gravity reading and an OG reading. It's like
by the time it's cooled down, by the time you've done the temperature correction,
just get a.
Nah, it's like 5 minutes top.
A Popeye.
Fuck that, I ain't got time.
Yeah,
I ain't got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Aye.
So yeah, I just don't bother.
A refractometer. Just get yourself a refractometer.
There's a plastic box just here, and there's a refractometer in there somewhere.
Well, just use that.
Why?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't need to.
Fine. I'm not disagreeing with your point that your system is you've nailed your system, right?
I have.
But I am arguing that you're claiming you saved half an hour.
Look, Chris has got a system, and it works for him. So
fuck me, Andy's batting my corner. What's going on here?
Just Chris doesn't have time to do all this complex, stuff.
Why should he bother?
Anyway,
I trust in the science anyway.
Craft brew.
But one thing I guess you can do, even if you don't weigh them out, is at least check that you've got the ingredients right, Chris. Or
I mean that's important.
Do you maintain an inventory at all, or do you use that?
Yeah, I do maintain an inventory. It's in the fridge, and if I can find it in the fridge, I know I've got it then.
Good.
So you're not popping your ingredients in on the Brewfather inventory then and
No,
using that.
fuck
or-
no.
Yeah,
To
see,
me-
I've done my hops, but I haven't done my grains.
Maybe I'm a
and
bit obsessive with these sorts of things, but I really like using the inventory on the software. I always did it
Nah,
with Beersmith, and I
Chris,
put
see
it into
behind
Brewfather
Chris.
as well.
Behind Chris is a humongous freezer, chest freezer, and he just fills that with hops. So pretty much,
I think he's going to be able to
he'll
brew
have it.
something regardless of what's on the recipe.
He's got at
He's
least
got-
2 kilos of everything. So
He's got 5 kilos of Magnum in there.
I guess in that case, he probably doesn't need to worry then, does he?
It's actually 4.985 kilos of Magnum now.
He is keeping an inventory, see?
He is.
I knew it. There's
No.
a spreadsheet there somewhere.
No, I just know that the last time I used
Database.
that
I
away,
I don't buy it. I don't buy it from a scientist that he doesn't have. An
He's written a
inventory somewhere.
database. Forget a spreadsheet. He's got a
I do
database.
actually have a database.
He just
yeah.
doesn't want to admit it. I mean, interesting. Like, go back to the whole grain thing. Like measuring your grains is a massive mess up, right?
Yeah, big time.
How many people have like weighed out
Oh.
4.5 kilos of grain and then gone?
Why
"Oh,
is
crap."
it only 450?
Yeah, was it
Grams?
4.5 kilos? Right, hold on, and then pour it all back out. Start again.
That happened in the Brewmasters. I think was it the boys for the Netherlands or something like that. He went and measured at the grains and he measured grams instead of kilos or something stupid. He did, and they were like, "Why is this so thin?" You know, because it's obviously one's actually a brewer, the other one's just a pal that's there to make up the numbers.
Oh, so he
And-
put in 450 grams instead of 4.5
Like
kilos.
4 kilos, yeah.
That is going to lead to a slightly thinner mash, I guess, isn't it?
You had to start again, and you
Oh
were
my
like, "What are these guys doing?"
Surely you're going to be looking at the bucket going,
Yeah.
"That's
Looks
not
like
right."
looks like we're brewing a table beer today.
He is the man who turns around and says to his girlfriend, "No, really, it's 8 inches." That's him, isn't it? He's the one. He's the one. No. If you can't tell the difference between 4.5 kilos and 450 grams, get in the fucking sea.
Yeah, well, it was quite impressive, I thought, to mess that one up. Do you know what? I actually Get a Brew sent me back in the early days. They sent me a kit beer for a lager, and I've mashed it in and everything. I think there's a video. There is a video, and I was like, took the gravity, and it was like 10-10 pre-boil, and I was like, what is going on? So turns out when I looked at the back, they'd sent me, obviously. They'd missed out like the base malt. They'd sent me all the speciality, but forgot or put in 100 grams of the base instead of like, I don't know, it was 3 kilos or whatever. So that was a quick phone call and they sent me out another bag. But that was like a day wasted. But like you say, it's like,
to be fair though,
how
Get
did you not
a
notice?
Brewed have got a lot better though, haven't they?
Oh, they're amazing! Like absolutely top dog.
I don't want to slag off Get a Brew because I really like those guys. They've
No,
been
love.
nothing but good to me.
Yeah. Get a Brew. But that's the thing. The customer service was, "Oh, we're really sorry." Boom, out it went. Another one we Get a Brew was the bag split, and there was some grains.
No,
spilled
I've
in
seen the
thing.
pictures of that one.
Yeah, and do you know what they did? They just sent me out another. They just replaced it. No bother, no issues. So-
Volume, Owen.
It's like the Amazon style customer services. It's like, don't bother sending it back.
Yeah,
We'll just
so-
send
yeah,
it out. We'll
Yeah.
send out another one.
Yep, that's exactly what they do.
yeah. So excellent, very good.
So yeah, Tricky, do you want to cover this next one? Because this next
yeast
one's kind of right up
preparation.
it's right up your strata, that one, isn't it?
I just have one point before we
Sorry, Owen.
move
Sorry.
on. It might be sort of meandering into brewing myths, but like when you mill your grain, I assume most of you guys mill your grain
Yeah,
or
Mhm.
mill your own
Yeah.
grain. I read that you have to like run the drill not so fast, you know, that it can have an impact, you know. So I used to like be super diligent about sort of running it really slowly, you know. Like
Did
change
that
the
last
gear.
for the first minute of you doing it and realizing how long it was going to take?
Well, I
and then
think I
just,
stuck it
full
out
chat.
longer than. Well, that's what I've now moved on to. Yeah, it's just I don't even have it on like the slowest.
Can I just
Slowest
point out
Yeah.
that the physics here says
hammer
it's got
drill.
to go through the fucking gap. All
yeah.
right.
Anyway,
So, I mean, I can mill my grain in about 15 seconds.
Well, how fast do you think the industrial grain mills are running at? That shit's not hanging around for.
That's
No.
what I figures. Yeah, I
The
just thought
malt miller's lead time would be 8 days per order if that was the case.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
there's
currently
just
only
one
2.
guy just hand cranking it.
I take it you guys are all conditioning your malt, of course, yeah, spraying it with the water.
Yeah,
and all that.
I tried doing that once, right? And all it did was just massively gummed up my rollers. It just made an absolute mess of my rollers.
Yeah, I was going to say any sort of moisture near the grain mill, it just starts going rusty straight away. So I'm not going to be trying that anytime soon.
I am not making fucking Play-Doh in my grain mill. Fuck off.
Well, so Brian did a video recently, and the advantages of doing it was the husk didn't get torn up so much. So you found actually it was better for sparging. Is it loitering?
Yeah, you get a better grain bed filter or something is the theory, isn't it?
It's definitely loitering.
Because the husk, you're not destroying the husk as much.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the theory behind it and stuff, but like I don't have any issues with that anyway. So like, why would I, why
exactly.
fuck around with
Problem
it?
is you can't afford to be impatient, because when you do it, you're supposed to leave it for like an hour after you've kind of sprayed it down or whatever. But it's way too much effort, right?
I'm not doing
Next level.
You know.
I
But tricky. You use a bag, right? Chris, do you use a bag?
Yeah.
So like you don't have issues with what I tend to find is like milling my grain is a bit challenging because I use like a filter at the bottom of the grain basket.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't mill your grain on point, you can end up with an absolute crap load of grain, particles and stuff like in the beer.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little bit careful. And that's why I think I struggle a little bit with efficiencies, because obviously if you mill too wide, then you're not going to get the right crush. That's going to affect your efficiency. You mill too thin and you end up with loads of grain in you.
Yeah.
But
so does that not eventually get recirculated and just sort of filtered out, or do you always still end up with stuff that's just sort of sat on the bottom with the
for the large part, I think you do end up with a bit.
Yeah.
Typically I do find, but it whirlpools and it cones up and it won't actually go into the fermenter.
Yeah.
But this is the all-in-one. This is the all-in-one systems. It's that specific issue happens.
I think that's always going to be a bit of a problem, isn't it? In that sense, that you don't maybe get that. I mean, obviously you are doing the recirculation, the lautering phase, but because it's in the same pot, you're not necessarily able to guarantee that's not going to end up in the boil as well.
Yeah, but it's that
Sorry, mate, go on.
All right, so when I transfer from the mash tun into the boil kettle, it then goes through a hop spider so that you get all that sort of that fine sort of like floury stuff, or sometimes a little bit of husk. It gets caught in that, and then you take that out.
Yeah, I've clocked that on your videos actually. When I've seen them, Andy. But generally, all I end up with is like really super fine kind of bits of grain.
I don't know if we've got this on the list
like
anywhere, but that is something that you need to consider in terms of potential scorching on the element, which is that's definitely a brew day fuck up that I've had in the past, where I've ended up with too much of that like fine particle grain particles in the boil. I think the worst I had it was when I think it was a wheat beer. I think wheat can be particularly bad for this.
Wheat's terrible for it.
And so it was a wheat beer, probably about 50% wheat in the grist. A lot of grain particulate made it through into the boil, and the elements scorched straight away, and you could just smell it like the beer was toast. Literally toast, because it tasted of burnt toast, and it was fucked. So that's one of those where if your element is caked in black burnt on crust at the end of it, that flavour is going to be in your beer, and your beer is pretty much written off at that point.
Tricky. Is that a specific type of element? So is that
that was when I was using the what is now my HLT as a boiler. So it was the kettle elements, basically the sort of 2.4 kilowatt, the standard, the ones that you get in like the Pico plastic buckets and whatnot.
Yeah,
So,
I've got two of them in my HLT.
yeah,
That's what I use in my HLT. Two of those.
and they're not a problem for that, generally speaking. But with that particular, when I had that issue, that particular beer, there was obviously just too much in there, and
because I was thinking they normally sit up higher so the grain would flow, so it wouldn't. Whereas I was thinking maybe the buffalo boilers or whatever, and it's like a plate almost at the bottom. I think
probably maybe see that generally more often with the ones where it's sort of a flat element on the base, but this particular beer, I think it was just because the wort was basically more like porridge than it was proper filtered wort or whatever. So it was basically bound to happen in that case because I hadn't really recirculated or lautered the mash sufficiently in order to filter that out before I put it on to boil, basically.
Yeah, the only time I've ever scorched elements is with a wheat beer.
Yeah,
I think it might be my first attempt. So I both scorched the beer and then fermented the beer, being a Hefeweizen far too low, and ended up with some sort of rubbery burnt clove bomb.
Ooh, that sounds great.
It was a cracker. It was so good. I remade it 4 or 5 times.
And still can't get it right.
But the thing is, you're so good at brewing wheat beers, Owen.
I know, master. I quite often get calls from German breweries just inquiring as to what my secret is.
I mean, I did hear you on the phone to Weinstefano whilst you were up here in Wakefield doing a consult.
I did.
I heard this.
How to reduce the banana in your beer?
That's what it was.
Exactly. It's just I'm known as in Germany as the Clove
King.
Das Klofmeister.
Exactly.
Right, gentlemen, we are currently 45 minutes into this podcast, and we are currently on 0.3 of 40.
We might want to
get a
shuffle
along a bit.
We?
So,
strap in, folks.
I'll cover the next 4 pretty much straightforward because these are ones where it's literally don't fucking do this. Okay,
yeah, cool.
Lack of yeast preparation. If you are trying to squeeze in a brew day, or you're rushing, or it's a short notice brew day, or something like that, do not use a liquid yeast unless it is brand new, made by Imperial or WHC. Don't do it. Ain't worth the hassle. It really isn't. Grab something dry, pitch that, because the rest, it just ain't worth it. Would you guys agree with that?
100%.
There we go.
I've learned from that one.
And just
got a video about pitching rates on.
I was just about to say, if you've got any questions, I refer you to Tricky's video. In fact, if you got any questions about anything, I refer you to Tricky's video.
It's like short notice brew days. Like I'm guilty of this one because it's like life's tricky. You get 7p problems, and I always berate myself when I'm like then drinking the beer, going, I really wish I'd just been more prepared. And it's always the yeast.
Massive.
It's always a yeast problem.
That's
why it's
king.
Well, Chris,
when I'm thinking about brewing a beer, the first thing I think about is yeast.
Yeah. We've all now got conicals. We've all got conical flasks now, don't we?
Correct.
And we all do starters because Chris, you put us onto them. It's Yeast Health. Big.
It is. It's, well, basically, you make the wort, the yeast make the beer. So fucking do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want an 82-year-old with 3 legs and a half an arm doing your plastering, do you? Right. You don't want that. You want a 24-year-old with a right arm like Garth, who looks like he wanks for a living. You want him doing your plastering. Yeah. All right. That's what you want. So Yeast Health is absolutely key.
It's a bit of a bugbear for me, this one, because you'll go on to like Facebook groups and stuff, and you just get this avalanche of people saying like, "Oh, I've put this yeast in, it's not really working that well." And you just get this avalanche of comments saying, "Oh, it'll be fine, give it a few days, blah 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 blah," and it's like, I've never made a starter, never had any problems. It's just like, shut the fuck up. You don't know, like, what are you talking about?
I thought you were going to say just pitch some Voss.
What? No, that is always an option. But it's like this is as far
Other
as
strains of Quake are
beers
available.
that have gone a little bit, a little bit west for me. It's like Owen says, almost always like a yeast related issue or yeast that's not really been prepared or is a bit out of date or whatever that it comes back to in a lot of cases. And 99 times out of 100, if I've done that preparation, I've got a really healthy yeast culture ready to go in. Those are the best beers that I make,
Standard.
without a doubt.
Reminds me, I need to put a starter on for my brew tomorrow. Joking. Joking.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
Get out.
Yeah, that's it.
So the
Feel like
next
it, man.
thing, the next sort of point on our list is water treatment. All right. Regardless of whether you're using tap or RO, please at least throw a Camden tablet in there.
I don't.
If you're using tap water, though, just
Yeah,
chuck a Camden tablet in.
I
You've got to make sure that your water, that your salts are at the right level. Your beer's probably not going to taste. I know, yes, you can make good beer without treating your water, but you can't make good beer if your water's got a shitload of chlorine in it. Okay,
Correct.
It's not going to be the best beer that you can make, and sometimes that's not an option. Sometimes we just want a keg filler. But
see if you fill up your HLT the night before, does that not like give time for the chlorine to evaporate off as well?
no, it doesn't. No,
Okay.
no. Not chlorine. Free chlorine, yes. Chloramines, no. It really doesn't. And you've got to make sure that this is done right, because if you don't, your beer's going to taste like cough medicine or fucking plasters, or it's going to have that horrific TCP taste, and nobody wants that. It's just wrong.
Belt and bases approach, isn't it? Like, you may not get this issue, but that one day you don't do it might be the day that the water company is up their
Doing their treatment.
chloramine content because there was several dead badgers floating around in the tank.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, there was a leak 3
Give them a
streets over, and somebody shat in the hole, and then you've made beer from that water. All right. Oh, the bevy badger!
Bevy badgers out.
There it is. Yeah, I would
Run the
agree.
babies!
It's just there's so many little things that I think that you have to just understand between the difference between like bad homebrew and even good homebrew. Right? There's like things like using Camden tablets in your tap water to avoid chloramine. It's like and then there's a whole lot more stuff to go from good to great. And I guess really we're talking about bad to good, or in reverse.
We are.
Right. And actually water treatment, other than I would say using Camden in tap water, then I would probably say that's a good to great rather than a bad to good scenario.
I'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next? Sanitation.
Right, let me do this one. Right. Sanitation. The main issue that you're going to have with sanitation is using anything with sodium hypochlorite in it. That's going to be your issue, right? Don't fucking do it. Anybody who tells you to use bleach and vinegar as a no-rinse sanitizer, kill them, then skull fuck them. Okay?
That's old school.
Exactly. And it's fucking bullshit, is what it is. It is not a no-rinse sanitizer. It isn't. Irregardless of what somebody may say. No matter what Bob, who's made 400 batches of homebrew and everyone's been perfect. No. Bullshit. All right? Bullshit. Star San is cheap.
Well, it's not really, but
Sodium
just
percarbonate, it is cheap. All right? If you buy a 1 litre bottle, that's 100,000 litres.
I bought
that you
a 2 litre.
have.
I think it was about 40 quid or so.
Right? You're using 1 mil per litre. In fact, no, it's 1 million litres is what it is. It's 1,000 thousands. It's 1 million litres of fucking Star San you've got.
Yeah,
Don't use hypochlorite. Don't do it. Just VWP, fuck it off, put it in a bin, shit in it. I don't care what you do. don't fucking put it anywhere near anything that you're going to put beer in. Just don't do it.
Unless I would argue that you have decided in your infinite wisdom to use your main FV to ferment something with Brett or lacto
Burn
or
it.
some, then use VWP because it will literally kill everything.
Burn it. Just burn it.
Yeah. Well, that's the sour kettle now, and you should keep that at the other side of the
Correct.
Country.
If
You
they-
should keep that at the other side of the country. Send that to a friend who lives in Estonia. All right, don't fucking use it.
Fine Ales, so they've got the Origin project where they're doing a lot of Brett stuff, and they says they put that, like the other side of the farm sort of thing, miles away from the main brewery, because they're like,
you're in an absolute world of pain if you end up with some sort of wild yeast infection going on in your.
Why don't we ask the one
brewery.
member of the group who's had this? Hey, Skank Wrangler, how did it go for you?
What's that? The old pellicle collection that I used to have in the brew shed. Yeah. Don't think it was ever Brett though. I think it was just it was generally.
I mean, you'd see a bollard sticking out the top of your FV, wouldn't you?
Probably more like lactobacillus type things that were getting in there. But that was mainly when I was doing the using the old box fermenters, which were
they were brilliant.
They're
all intents and purposes was open fermentation, really. Cling film around the top.
Did you stop because you just got tired of the incessant number of questions that you would get about
pretty much, yeah,
why you were using them?
What are you doing? What are those box fermenters? Where did you buy them? Blah blah blah. I was like, there's a fucking video. Go watch the video. I made the video so I didn't have to answer the questions.
That was it.
No, I mean they worked, but they were more vulnerable to infection because they were not sealed containers. So again, coming back to
more vulnerable.
Yeah, coming back to
just to stack them on top of each other, there would be about 3 or 4 of them on the go.
On your typical sort of forum or Facebook. Oh, I do open fermentation. I just throw a dirty pair of underpants over the top, and it's fine every time. Best beer I've ever made. Yeah. Bollocks.
Puts hairs in your chest.
Why does it taste like sewage? Yes.
Look, you can probably get away with open fermentation during the active stages when it's got a massive krausen on the top of it, but after that, you need something to cover it up. Otherwise, you're just getting all sorts of shit floating in there, and it's gonna.
To be perfectly honest, I also know another member of our group, somebody who's currently sat on this chat, has done open fermentation, haven't you, Owen?
Have I?
You told me that you did.
I don't think so.
You told me that you did. You left the lid off your Firmzilla and covered it with some muslin or something.
I might have once.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe.
And he ain't dead. So, open fermentation during active krausen, that might work.
Yeah, in your face, Tricky.
Yeah. Was that the wheat beer?
Oh, no, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying it's not.
I'll quote my very excellent memory of the one time I ever did it.
I had a conversation with you for about 15 minutes one evening about it.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, you must have been drunk. What a surprise.
So anyway, all I would say is you do get these fairly militant there's no point having a lid or airlock or blah 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 people on various groups and things, and it's that may be your opinion, but I've not had any infections whatsoever since I've moved to basically entirely sealed fermenters that are pressurized and CO2 flushed and all the rest of it. So anecdotally for me, that's far better in terms of guaranteeing.
Well, that's not anecdotal, that's scientific.
Well, it's not scientific in the sense that I haven't recorded the results and quantified that in any sense. But
did you use all closed vessels? Yes, that's fucking scientific. If everything was closed and you had no infections, that's scientific.
Causation.
So on the open, so there is still obviously a lot of old school breweries that do open fermentation, and that's great. But what you will know is that once the fermentation starts to come near to an end, they transfer that into a closed bright tank.
I think that's where the confusion comes in. It's like that's where it is literally sat under a blanket of Krausen and CO2 that is protecting it, and it's not like they're leaving that there for the 2 weeks or more.
No
that
chance.
homebrewers will leave it in a vessel open,
No,
because
4 days.
it would
max.
never fucking make it out the brewery,
Yeah.
would it?
It goes in a bright
Well,
tank.
As long as it's off-gassing CO2 the whole time, then it will
Yeah.
be absolutely fine. If anything, it's going to benefit from some oxygen.
It'll keep the yeast
Right.
health really quite
Yeah.
healthy, because
It'll
it's
be
getting
great.
the oxygen from the Krausen as well.
I would agree with that.
There we go. So
Anyway, mash.
let's tick the box under sanitation. Let's move on to mash. So maybe Tricky wants to cover this one, given his recent experiences with a piece of equipment that he had.
Yeah, so I mean, despite what you might see on certain YouTube videos, you probably do want to take care of your mash temperatures, and I guess it's just being aware and tuning up your system so that you know that the strike temp that you are aiming for is going to yield the correct mash temperature once everything has settled down and you've stirred it all in and mashed in and whatever. And that's more for, it's not necessarily going to cause you a problem as long as you're within, the range of enzyme activity. But if you do fall out of that, then you are going to have some issues. So, if you're that far out of whack that you either denature the enzymes, or does it denature them if it's too cold, or they just don't start working, do they? So too hot will
Kill.
that's right. So too hot will kill them, denature them, and I think that's pretty much over 75-ish.
Yeah, 75.
That.
Yeah.
And then obviously on the low side, it's just not going to start happening. So you're either going to end up with either way, you're probably going to end up with something that's not going to be that fermentable, because there's just not been enough conversion happening. So that's the bit that you want to really avoid. If you're within that range, but your mash temperatures are all over the place, at that point, it becomes an issue more in terms of final gravity and actually getting a predictable ABV and repeatability within your brewing as well. So, yeah, I guess that's all I've got to say about that
box.
Yeah.
Strike temperature checks as well. This is another one. I can't remember which one of us put this in, but I was definitely going to. Essentially, if your strike temperature is incorrect, then you're in for a world of pain, because 60 to 65% of your conversion is going to occur within the first 15 minutes. And it's probably going to take you 15 minutes to correct that temperature. So, yeah. Just make sure your shit's right.
I think a couple of things in terms of like seasonality, like obviously in the summer your strike temp's going to be lower because your grain's that bit hotter, whereas like in
that's
pot,
a really good
pot
point
as well.
And the pot, you end up having to preheat the pot.
If you've got all your stuff stored outside in the garage or a shed, especially, that becomes a really big factor.
Exactly. If your grain's like at 1 degree, that's going to like just rip the temperature down, and then you're going to have a real problem. So you've got to like just use a calculator. Brewfather, I find, is super accurate. But also, you're
I always have to knock 2 degrees off my Brewfather results, I found. And I've never bothered to try and fix it. But I just know if I take 2 degrees off the strike where it says, then it's bang on.
Yeah,
so
there's something in the calculator.
Yeah, it's in the calculation. Just adjust it. But
and I think the other thing is just your thermometers. For whatever you're using, just to measure your strike water, is just make sure that those are accurate, because if you are just using like a single thermometer, if that fails, it's going to screw you.
Well, you can do what me and Andy did. Build a craft beer pie system and use 2 DS B18650B thing, whatever they're called.
Yeah, or if like Tricky, you've upgraded to an S40. So,
I mean, upgraded.
Try not to spit beer all over my keyboard at that point. Yeah.
I mean, the DS 18650Bs or whatever they're called, they're very, very good if you get them and properly calibrate them.
You have to calibrate them. Yeah, definitely.
I calibrated mine to 100 degrees and then calibrated them again to 20 degrees, and everything worked out right with mine. But it takes a bit of time. But it's like anything. If you've got one of the Thermopens, it might still need calibration. If you've got one of the Inkbird ones, it might still need a bit of calibration. everything requires calibration. There's very few, I mean, unless you're paying thousands for a piece of scientific equipment, you're not generally going to get something which is, let's say, 100% accurate 100% of the time.
Yeah, but part of that extra cost for the better equipment is the fact you can calibrate it usually, isn't it? And that's that's what you're actually paying for. So
yeah, the DS18 650s or whatever they're called, they're normally around about £4 a piece. So paying for, I don't know. I suppose it's the entire control box that goes with it.
Because that allows you to calibrate the sensor then.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but yeah, very important.
So if you're a who's done brew in the bag?
Yeah,
we've all been there. We've all been
I do.
there.
Yeah. I still do.
Who's had problems with their bag?
Oh yeah, this is the one I brought up because there was a young boy. Is it that's mates with the Gambrian brewer or whatever? The two young lads, and he's set up his own channel, and he's bought one of these Pico bucket, with the element in it, and then he's showing how he's got the mash bag, and he's really excited to do his first all grain brew. And I'm like, he is literally going to put the grains in that thing, heat up the water, dump it in, and that bag's just going to melt straight onto that element. Yeah. And then he'll go like, pull it out, and there'll just be all the grains left in the bucket.
He's going to be in a world of pain.
So I told him, I did say to him in the video, I was like, because thankfully he was saying, "Oh, I've just bought all this stuff," and I was like, "Hey, this is your future." Yeah. So share the love.
Yeah, any false bottom is absolutely essential to keep nylon bags away from hot elements, especially unless you turn them off. If you turn them off, fair enough.
But it doesn't have to be a complicated false bottom. It doesn't have to be a laser cut.
I used to use a pizza tray from IKEA, which I drilled holes in and put bolts in. The stainless steel
put some
bolts.
legs.
Yeah, it was great. It worked.
I think I bodged like a cake stand or something like that as not really a false bottom, but just as something just to lift the bag up off of the elements at one point.
Yep.
Yeah.
I literally have a home drilled stainless steel serving tray from Nisbets.
Nice.
And that is currently what I use.
Yeah.
It works perfectly for me.
If it works, it works. And as long as it's stainless steel, then
it's
happy
fucking
days.
stainless. What can go wrong? So yeah, if you're not using a false bottom and you're using heated brew in a bag, it's like my system, full recirculation and everything I've got in mind. And to be fair, without that false bottom, I would not have any kind of recirculation for my mash. I wouldn't. Yeah. So whilst we're talking about melting stuff, I wish that our good friend Martin was on here, because there are other things that you can melt. And Martin decided to turn his hot liquor tank or his boiler on or something without any water covering his element. And that went to shit real fucking fast.
Classic.
That was a new element. And didn't you almost do that, Owen?
I did, yeah. I was sparging out my HLT, still had the element on, obviously, and I was chatting to Chris. I was chatting to Chris, and all of a sudden I start seeing a lot of excessive steam / smoke coming out of the HLT. I was like,
blue smoke.
and then I'm like spraying it down with the hose, and you can just all this hissing come out of it. But touch wood, still going.
I've killed an element doing that as well, to be fair. You look in and it's glowing. It's actually glowing red.
Mine didn't get to that stage, thankfully. I caught mine quick. But
out.
Yeah, you got to be super, super careful with elements. So careful.
They are a very delicate part of your equipment.
That can be a very expensive mistake as well if it's an all-in-one system and things like that as well.
If you got something like does anybody know what a new element for a Grainfather is these days?
Or a B80.
Oh Jesus, or a B8 or a B150.
Yeah.
I mean, that's buy a new fucking house, sell a kidney kind of money. That.
But it's not going to be cheap. Whereas if you've just got the 2.4 kilowatt, or if you've got one of even a 5.5 or something Ripple, you can at least, if you built it yourself, Just pull it out.
They're 45 quid.
Yeah.
They're just 45 quid. That's all they are. So, yeah, it's one of them things, a little bit of care, a little bit of, making sure that you don't make the mistakes that we've either made or have heard people make. This is what we're trying to get across to people. Okay, I think we're aiming this podcast more at either the newer brewer or just kind of a reminder for those of us who've been brewing for a while.
Yeah, some chuckles.
Yeah, just some shits and giggles, to be perfectly honest.
85 euros.
Is that how much it is for a B80 element?
A B150 element. But
Yeah.
you'd need two of them if you end up screwing both of them.
Okay. So
Yeah,
basically, what you're telling me is, because euros are basically 1-to-1, aren't they? So it's 170 quid for a new element.
Yeah.
I can get one delivered for 32. Boom. And it's more powerful than yours. Yeah, I already know how much mine is.
Do you not get a 4 kilowatt, isn't it?
I've got 4.5, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Right.
this is the point. Let's move on.
Let's whiz through the rest of the mash, shall we?
Yeah, okay. So, dough balls. I'll blame Tricky for this one. Just use a fucking whisk. It's a lot easier. There's absolutely no point. Mix it, whisk it, right? Don't.
Bigger the better.
If you're a fucking low dough guy, fuck off. Find another podcast. Just whisk it. The oxygen's going to be driven off the moment it comes to the boil anyway. Don't worry about it. Whisk it. Get rid of those dough balls. It's very, very, very important.
Do you whisk halfway through your mash?
No, because I recirculate. I recirculate.
Yeah. Well, I don't do any recirculation, so I will, if I remember to, give it a quick whisk around about, try and do it sort of 10, 15 minutes in and then about halfway as well, if I can.
Or like me, I don't have a whisk, but I do take some care when I am mashing in. So I just make sure that I don't just dump the entire 5 kilos of grain immediately into my strike water.
Once there with the mash paddle, he's getting
got my wooden mash paddle.
It seems to me like if you're gradually adding it and sort of whisking or stirring or whatever you're using as you go, it's far easier than either throwing it all in. I see some people like to sort of chuck all the grain in dry and then underlet for some reason, and that just seems like that's a bit of a, makes
the weird thing about underletting is that you won't have as much of an issue.
I don't
know. Right.
Because if it comes underneath and it actually comes up through the grain, you've got the absorption process as it comes through. And if you mix it at the point where it's thick, you won't actually get the dough balls. It's only when you go into the water.
So is that how you do yours, Andy? You just throw all the grain in and then
so all the grain goes in dry, and then you underlet to the volume, and then you just run the whisk in, and generally it's not too bad. I thought
it would have been.
No. When I had a 3-vessel system, I used to underlet, and it seemed like a pretty legit method.
Yeah.
pH adjustment. Probably a minor point. It's not going to screw your beer if you don't do it. Maybe discuss.
Depends how good your water is. I think really, it's
or what you're actually making, right? So if you're trying to make a lager with like super hard water,
Bedford water lager,
chances are you're probably going to struggle.
Funnily enough, actually, that was the Brew Point tour that I went on. I thought that was quite an interesting part of that, realizing that they, as a fairly large brewery, run all of the water that they have through a massive RO system, and they do make quite a few lagers and things like that. And I think that's probably the reason, because they're starting with they it's a borehole, but they're still probably getting pretty similar to water to what we are out of the tap, I think. So
those industrial RO systems are fucking amazing.
Yeah, big.
Must be expensive to run though, right?
It must be. I mean, they must have to pay quite a lot of money for sort of disposal of the wastewater, I imagine, as well.
Not really, just goes down the drain, doesn't it?
Well, they did say that it had to be monitored in some way in terms of how much they're putting out and what levels there are and all this kind of stuff. So there must be some sort of financial cost for that, I imagine.
The only commercial RO filter I've seen is actually on the railway. So in Norwich, which is not far away from you, Tricky, the carriage wash, so for washing the trains, they run that all through Arrow and then use that for the cleaning.
Yeah, because window cleaners use it as well, don't they? A lot RO water, so makes sense that they'd want it for that as well.
Yeah, and that was a beast.
Sorry, Owen, you're muted, mate.
I guess less streaky.
Yeah, it won't dry and leave that residue. So it's the
Brett,
lime scale, basically, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I think I've established Brett the Bollard is basically a very strong man. I got it, Brett.
We've got somebody called Gavin C who's just come in, who's asked us, do we wet the grain before milling? Fucking no.
So we were all talking about that at the start, and it was the problem is your mill could end up getting corroded, basically.
Gummed up or rusty or both.
Up,
yeah.
So we don't.
So yeah, it's a no.
I'm just going to guess by looking at that beer, Owen, but that looks to be about 10%.
I don't know. It's Brett's. It's the beer that you put a little green.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
It's 3 bean.
That's about 11% then.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's a strong one.
Yeah,
good. Right, I'll see you guys next week. Yeah.
It's just gonna start going.
Night,
disappearing.
I think the next point we kind of already covered in terms of keeping the temp range and the mash consistent, because we kind of went on to that with
it's
temperature care and strike temps and everything else. Stuck
and this
mashes.
Is why the S40 shit. Sorry, go on.
Stuck mashes.
That is
I'm
a
sure
hard to deal with.
Everyone's been there before. It's one of those. I think you tend to once you figure out a system, issues with the mash is one of the first things that you kind of learn how to deal with or what you need to do to stop it being a problem with a system. But everybody's had either a stuck mash or sparge at some point, I would imagine, in here.
Well,
I had a stuck mash when I was working at the brewery, and it took me 2.25 hours to do the sparge.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah.
I tend to oats wise, I'll use torrefied oats, so it comes with a husk, and that way then it'll sparge a lot easier.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're just using porridge oats, good luck.
Yeah.
This is again one of the reasons why in my mash tun using the mash bag as a sort of extra bit of filtration is really helpful, because if it's not running through, I just I can either attack it with the whisk, and it doesn't matter because it's not going to push any other shit through the bag, or just lift it up and shake it around a bit to get things flowing, and it's an easy fix. Whereas if you're just using a normal sort of mash tun setup, then it becomes more problematic, because you don't really want to break up the mash bed too much and end up with all of that sort of powdery shit going through.
Yeah, because of cloudy.
And so
top tips.
Yeah,
somebody
I
wants
think
a commercial break, I think.
Perfect timing.
And part of that, I think, the next point kind of follows on from that. So over circulating, if your mash isn't running through as quick as you are recirculating, if you've got a system that can recirculate during the mash, that's one of the situations where you can end up running the bottom of the pot dry and burning elements and things like that, or forcing grain particulate into there. So it's probably something that you're more likely to see with mash tuns that are recirculating, or obviously for home brewers a lot of the time that's going to be all-in-one systems that's perhaps more of an issue with, rather than static mash tuns which you just sort of set and forget kind of thing. So yeah, that's the mash section done. Should we get into the commercial break? Motherfuckers.
Okay, so commercial time. I will put this beer back then, because I don't need it. I was planning on having another beer if we were going to go straight down the route of doing the next bit, the boil. I have had this beer many times before. You may be able to tell what it is from the size of the can and which brewery it's from. However, this beer, I'm going to cover it because I don't want you all to see the name just yet. So, this is one of my favorite beers. And I'll be honest, I can't remember if I've done this on a commercial before. So if
Chris,
I
can
have,
I guess? Can I guess? Is it from Arbor Brewing?
yes, of course, it's from Arbor.
No way.
No way.
This is a fucking lovely beer. This is right. So it is a American Pale Ale by Arbor Brewing, and it has the amazing name of Talus in Wonderland.
Oh, nice.
Right now, I was lucky enough from my compadres who came up for the Wild Child Open Day to be given a gift of a couple of boxes of Arbor beers, which, to be fair, I'm still very, very, very thankful for. I think you guys are awesome. But this,
how many you got left, Chris?
7. This is an amazing beer, and I absolutely adore this beer. It is Owen's back. Owen, your internet connection's all kinds of fucked up, mate. Like all kinds of fucked up.
Owen's gone a bit crime watch there, hasn't he?
Owen's having a few issues with his internet. So, this is an incredibly fruity beer. Now, here's a wonderful thing.
He's gone. He's back.
He'll be here eventually.
Yeah.
So, it has Talus, it has Idaho 7, and it has Azaka. And I have a hard on. Okay. This is a fucking fantastic 4.8% juice bomb. That's what this beer is. It has, I mean, the color of it, that doesn't do the color justice because the lights come in this way, right? This is probably one of the nicest looking beers I think I've had for a very, very long time. There you go. There's a color. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. Golden.
Mate, it is stunning. And it is one of the nicest beers I've had for a really, really, really long time. It's fruity. There's grapefruit. There's pineapple. There's peach. There's all kinds of different fruits, but it's all backed up by this wonderfully thick backbone. Better than Galazaka? Oh, mate. No, it's not better than Galazaka. But this is an incredible beer. Oh, mate. It's amazing. If you don't have it in your arsenal, go and buy some. Everybody else, just do your own reviews. I'm going to keep drinking this.
Right, Chris is done. Andy, do you want to go or shall I go?
I need the baby wipes, mate. That's what I need.
I'm still trying to figure out what's going on here, so you can go, Tricky.
Okay, I'm kind of the same with my beer, to be honest, because it's got a fucking really like weird and not necessarily that pleasant aroma to it, but it tastes quite good. I've got a Brew York beer.
What's it called?
Owen's back in the room. It's called Time Traveling Taxi.
Fuck it. It wins on name alone.
Well, the Brew York beers always do quite well name-wise, don't they? But it's double dry hop pale ale, 5.7%. It is hopped with CTZ, which is another name for Columbus or Tomahawk or Zeus hops, which are basically all the same. So CTZ is like Columbus, Tomahawk, or Zeus, which are the same hops by the single name, basically. So it's got CTZ T90 and Cryo, Citra T90 and Cryo, and Laurel T90 and Cryo. Dry hopped with 13 grams per litre. So you can see it's definitely got, by the haziness of it, the full whack there. But yeah, the aroma on this, it's really dank, but it's kind of sweaty socks, BO, like not, it's fruity, but in a unpleasant sort of gym locker kind of
Dank.
way, and I'm really struggling with the aroma on this to sort of say anything nice about it, because it's just one of those where it's gone a little bit too far into jockstrap territory, I think. But the weird thing is, like, flavor wise, much more kind of like juicy fruit. Juicy fruit chewing gum kind of flavor to it. Quite sort of sweet, stone fruity kind of flavor there. There's still a bit of that kind of Columbus sort of dank flavor to it, but there's also a bit of a spicy herbal thing, which I think laurel is kind of like a modern noble hop sort of flavor, isn't it? I think laurel, is that right?
Fairly new.
More so, yeah, more so than, it's more leaning towards that than it is the kind of big tropical fruit flavors that you get on most of the newer hops. But yeah, it's nice, but I can't quite get past that aroma because it's kind of really off-putting. Yet the beer tastes quite good. So
is it? Would you say it's more stank than dank?
Yes, I think that would be a good descriptor. Yeah,
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
Stank on the nose, but fruity in the mouth.
I mean, that's what she said.
And where'd you go from that? So
I think we move on to Andy because he's looking confused.
No, it's really obviously.
What a surprise! Beer. It's a fucking overtone beer.
Considering they gave us loads of them for free last night, so I've got loads of fresh overtone. It's Vic Secret, so it's a 6.3 NEPA. It's got Vic Secret and Citra in it, and it's really interesting actually because when I smell it, I smell Vermont yeast, Conan, that Sanders sort of thing. That I've done a lot of NEPAs with Citra and Sanders, and it's just that's what's coming out at me. It's like a kind of pineapple-y sort of that pineapple-y and Citra kind of thing, but then it's got that. I'm not going to say rubber, but it's like that total. It's probably not Vermont, but to me it's got that sort of Vermont yeast smell, but it's super creamy, like dead. Because when I've made beers in the past, like this type of style, it's been very, very similar tasting. Very similar to this. I think it's probably just the Citra NEPA, but the Vic Secret, what is that bringing? Is it the pineapple, or is that the yeast? So yeah.
Vic Secret brings pineapple, in my opinion, pineapple, peach, and a hint of lime.
Yeah. Vic Secret's,
the lime.
Vic Secret's like pineapple through, isn't it?
The lime, yeah.
I need some Vic Secret in my life.
Everybody needs Vic Secret, Azaka, and Idaho 7, and they need to make fucking NEPA with it. That's what they need to do.
See, now you've said lime, Chris. Now all I'm getting is fucking crazy lime.
What do they call that in like psychological terms? It's like you sort of plant a seed. It always happens when you go to like, I don't know, brew clubs. You go to brew clubs and you're all trying the same beer, and someone goes like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting licorice." Everyone goes, "Oh yeah,
hell."
I think that's just FOMO though, that isn't it?
Yeah. It's
confirmation bias, is that?
I think it is.
That's the phrase, yeah.
Bias, is that the right term?
Well done, Tricky. I'm gonna.
That's
put
so
you
weird.
On,
yeah. So that makes a lot more sense now.
Is it a good beer though?
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it's not. I don't think last night I had a lot better, like insane. Whereas that's just a kind of nice, smooth NEPA, bit of lime twang, like you say, pineapple, Citra in the nose, Sanders, type Vermont style. Yeah.
I'm actually slightly jealous of Luke at the minute, who's sitting there banging down a Roquefort.
Yeah. I've got
why aren't we doing
Oh,
the
I see.
Belgian episode? I think
We need to
Ah.
do a Belgian episode. That's what we need to do.
I've got a good few.
Right,
nice Belgians
next
in the
episode.
fridge.
Sorry, next episode after the next episode, which we're not going to give away. The next episode is going to be Belgian beers.
Maybe we'll do should we do a little teaser?
we don't
at the
know
end?
fuck all about brewing them, but we're going to drink a shit ton on the pod.
Yeah.
That's
Let's just drink some really strong
Belgian beers are
quadruple
easy.
beers.
2 kilos of Pilsner malt, 4 kilos of sugar.
Yeah,
There you
to
go.
be fair, and then just let it ferment to do whatever it wants, goes hot as fuck, and there you go.
That's how
Belgian
you
beer.
make a Belgian beer. It's easy.
That's it. They make out like
Oh,
it's
so you
tricky.
get double,
but it's,
triple, Abbey style. If you watch Brewmasters, they do loads of them for some reason.
I think
It's
maybe
fucking easy.
we might need to brush up on our understanding of
Do you
Belgian
think? Do you
brewing.
think we're maybe
I'm not
ahead of that
painting
ahead
painting
of
the
that
picture
episode.
a little bit wrong there?
I'll read a
Yeah.
book. It's fine.
I don't drink them.
Well, you're gonna, because we're doing a podcast on it in 4 weeks' time. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Andy, you
Sorry,
best get some research under your belt.
Well, we'll
just
recommend
watch
some nice
Brewmasters.
Belgians for you to go out and buy anyway.
Absolutely.
I'll go and get myself a bomber-sized bottle of triple Carmelite, and that'll put me into proper Tourette's territory.
Right. While we're doing this commercial, Andy's done his. Tricky's confused by his. I love mine. Owen, what 47% beer have you got for us today?
Wait, yeah, it's not 47%, but sorry to disappoint you. Is the next pod after next? Is that not the Christmas special?
It might be.
Or if that'll be the one after. Maybe we ought to go Belgium for the Christmas special.
Belgians are quite good for a Christmas special.
Oh
though, to be
dear
fair.
God, we're gonna be this is gonna be Tourette's everybody, isn't it? I'm gonna be playing music over the fucking thing, not listening to any of you. Tricky's gonna be doing nothing but swearing. Owen's gonna be drinking 83% beers, and Andy's gonna be dead on the floor. That's what's gonna happen.
It's going to be a great episode.
Sign me up.
Tune in for that one, guys. It's gonna be special.
Right,
So-
come on, Owen. What you got, mate? What you
In
got?
every
What am I
sense
drinking?
of the
I'm a little bit like Andy. I'm going to plug my my local brewery, which is Unity. I'm sure you guys are probably sick of me talking about Unity beers,
No.
but this is a sour IPA at 6% called Electric Dreams, which the artwork is pretty damn cool.
What you do drinking water, Owen?
It's got, yeah, I know, every now and again, I like a session
It's got it.
strength
Boy,
beer.
smart.
It's got a pretty cool pink looking kind of Tron style artwork going on. And this is basically a fruited sour IPA. So it's rocking lychee, raspberry, and hibiscus petals.
Oh yeah.
With some zingy citra and talus.
Oh fuck yes.
And I mean the color is like it's a
Bing,
crazy
bada boom.
pink orange kind of thing going on. And it is fruity on the nose. Super fruity. And the taste is proper zappy, like it's a real zippy sour beer going on. It's
fucking
pretty heavy. It's not super dry. So it's falling more into IPA territory than perhaps what you might expect of other sour beers that get quite dry or are more drinkable. What's up, Chris?
Nothing. I'm just on the Unity website.
Okay. But you're getting huge amounts.
Spending some money.
Huge amounts of like really grapefruity vibes. So when you taste it, what I'm getting is that fresh grapefruit. When you eat grapefruit,
Is it
grapefruit, and it's like it's got that immediate sort of sourness and that rolls over to bitterness.
Yeah.
It's a really awesome beer, actually. Really, really exciting. Very, very different to what you might otherwise experience. Really complex, but not in a wanky craft way. It's not going, oh, we're a like creme brulee, short crust pastry, lychee, right? You know, it's got none of that. It's just a fruited sour IPA.
Fucking hate you, Owen.
It's nice.
Sounds good.
Chris, if you're going to buy some beer, buy some Collision. Collision is a great beer.
I don't have that one. Let's go back. Collision.
So I am particularly enjoying this. I like the fact that it's so fruity but also bitter. I've had to make quite a traverse from Brett's 4-bean stout to a sour IPA, so that's what I'm rocking right now. I'm rocking an 11% 4-bean stout and a fruited sour.
Come on.
Classic combo.
Classic combo. So there we have it. Are we done? We done on commercial beers?
That's the commercial break.
So what are we getting on to? We're getting on to, we've done mash.
Let's go straight into the boil-overs.
We're on to the boil-overs. The
boil-over, to be fair, I think is the main brew day fuck-up that I still consistently do on a regular basis. Mostly just because I leave the lid on to, obviously get up to the boil, and more often than not, I'll sort of inevitably turn around at just the wrong moment when it's just about to hit the boil, and then it ends up bubbling out from underneath the lid. But
Tricky, you really have to stop jerking off during brew days.
Yeah, well, it's an unfortunate habit, but I've got into. But
well, you got to clean your taps somehow, haven't you?
That's it.
Chris, we've lost your audio, bud.
Yeah, we seem to.
No, it's fine. I had my microphone turned down while I was abusing everyone. That's me, 58 quid down. Cheers, Owen.
No problem.
Wanker.
No problem.
58. I called it. I said 60.
Enjoy.
To be fair, they've got a saison on there. I had to have 4 cans of that.
You'll enjoy the saison. I mean, I was down there for their 5th birthday a little while ago, and they had this beer on, which was called 4 Years, which was a barrel-aged imperial porter, which was barrel-aged, and then it was put into cask, and then it was left, and it was the last cask they had, and it had been in cask, I think, for a year. And it was absolutely immense. It was like a marzipan party in your mouth. If you could get that in bottle or in can, that would be amazing. You can get the Imperial Porter, just the straight non-barrel aged version, I think, in can. But they're hitting their stride. Unity, they're a top quality brewery.
Have you been around it yet, Owen?
Hey?
Have you managed to get like a tour around it or anything like that?
No. I mean, it's a relatively small brewery, but I do know the guy that owns it. Sure, I could pop by and get a tour or whatever, but you never know. I might even see if I can get him on the podcast at some point. Come talk to us about UNC Brewery.
I think we should. And I would just like to say at this point, I've just got a message on the Rib Addict support group that we're all a member of, because we're all addicted to pork ribs. Luke, I would have brought Braybrook lagers if he'd used proper grammar. It's have, you fucking Luddite, not of. Right? I should have.
Oh, here he goes. He's triggered.
I'm not should have.
Every day's a school day, Luke.
Yeah.
Grammar Nazi is triggered
Fuck's
again.
Sake.
How?
No, you're not from Glasgow. Give up. So,
back to the boil-overs.
To be fair, I've already got a case of Braybrook on my way to me anyway, so fuck off.
Fucking
Boil-overs, yes. Keep an eye on shit, for fuck's sake.
No, it's classic. Still gets us all the time.
I think it's the if you're using a element that you can have on full crank that you don't need that high when you're once you're at the boil, that probably is a cause for some of us. And then there's there's just not paying attention or leaving the lid on to get it up there faster. So it's one of those things where you're trying to get to the boil quicker, and then you go fucking walk off at just the right moment and come back to
you walk
shit
in,
bubbling all over
you
the
walk
floor.
in, and it's right on the limit. It's like ready to go.
It's when you hear the death rattle of the lid just going right on the top that you know you
Why'd
fucked
you
it.
keep the lid on, right?
Yeah.
Alternatively, you could just do what I've done with my craft beer pie and set an alarm when it gets to 94 degrees.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, I'm
that'd be
sorry,
sensible.
you guys aren't
Or-
running craft beer pie, are you?
Or
But, you know.
well, I am. Yeah.
I
You
just
could
don't
set
get
it to
boilers.
98, Chris. You could.
Mate, I could squeeze mine and put it to 99.6 and I'd still be back in time to take the lid off. But I went for 94 just in case I'm having a crap.
Andy, haven't you got like a big one of those big industrial like off switches? You know,
I
like
do.
an
Yeah. That's
emergency power off
that. Bow.
To be
Okay,
fair, though,
so-
we were talking about this on Wednesday when we were doing the notes for the pod. The amount of thermal energy that a metal spoon will absorb,
Didn't work.
or a metal mash paddle will absorb,
That's didn't
should
work.
stop any boil over that you're going to get.
Tried it on Friday. Wasn't for having it in the 10-gallon batch.
Well,
So what Chris is saying is just drop any large metal item that you have to hand into your brew kettle.
keys, phone,
Yeah.
like
That all sounds
tried
like a good
anvil,
idea.
Plate
anything
chiller.
like that.
I
Yeah.
literally tried that on Friday, Chris, and I was like, "Bandit, it didn't work."
It does work.
There
It
is
fucking does.
there are what do you call it, like anti-foaming agents that you can use nowadays that should help with these sort of things. Does anyone
Weirdly
use those?
enough, I have discovered that if you first wort hop, so when you're bringing your wort up to boil, if you throw your bittering addition in at about 70 degrees, the amount of foam that you get is reduced by about 70%.
Well, it's hop oils, isn't it? It's going to break
Yeah.
the surface
Yeah.
tension. So
It's fucking wonderful. Well, it's going to increase the surface tension, but hey, well, let's not go down that route.
And you get a smoother bitterness.
is that right? Does it increase
Yeah.
the surface tension?
Yeah.
All right.
But that would make it foam more. No.
No, it should do, but it doesn't. It works a different way. It actually makes it foam less.
I'm confused.
Welcome to science.
Yeah, let's not go down that. Let's not
Have
go down the
another beer,
chemistry
Tricky.
rabbit hole. That's another.
It's
that's
all to do
another
with
30 minutes.
it. Basically, it disrupts the hydrogen bonding between the water molecules.
Oh no, I'm thinking of when you put like washing up liquid into water and that breaks the surface tension because that. Yeah. Yeah.
Just nod and agree.
Chris is a twat. Nod and agree.
Smile,
I've got you.
nod, thumbs up. I understand everything you're saying, Chris. Carry on.
No, you don't. But move on. 20%.
What's the
mate.
next point that I can
Failure
funny.
to monitor the time.
throw some bad science at?
Failure to monitor
the
the time.
Is that shouldn't be a problem, really, should it? Like, there's so much software with timers and stuff that can
Yes.
do it for you. That it's
Fucking
not...
Google does it now.
I think it probably comes back to that whole like, don't drink whilst you're brewing.
yeah, well, that can still
Thing.
cause issues.
Yeah, so what's going to happen? Like, if you're going to end up like boiling your wort for too long, or not boiling it for long enough, it's going to mess your IBUs up. It's going to mess your OG up.
Yeah.
And yeah, is that going to fuck your beer? Probably not.
Is it going to be what you want? Probably not.
Yeah. So it's probably a.
Oh, it's just one of those, isn't it? Like if you walk away and it's been boiling for 20 minutes, half an hour before you realise that you've actually started, that could be an issue in terms of you ending up with something quite a bit stronger. Or if you've already thrown in the 60 minutes hops but not started the timer, then you get into issues with how bitter your beer is going to end up. And it's just there's a lot of variables that can start going a bit haywire if you don't actually have your timings nailed down, I guess.
It's an accuracy thing, isn't it? And I think it's like a style thing. And it's sort of, when you compare to like the Norwegian farmhouse brewers who brew in a 500-litre pot on top of a fire, containing large birch trees, you're like, they don't really care too much about that. They're just aiming to make beer at 8% and chuck in some quark, and it'll be done in 3 days. But equally,
Maybe
as
a
if
wee
you're
bit
trying to
thin.
make a nuanced, lager, then you're
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
going to care.
I'm sorry,
get
I'm laughing
bloody.
at this point like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme and going, he thinks it'll be done in 3 days. Like it's going to take that long. It's quite 12 minutes
no, but
and it's done.
Don't forget, this is what.
It's
No,
like the
but
microwave of beers.
Kvike. No, but Kvike's born on the most chewable material possible known to man. Boiling your what for 6 hours or whatever in an open flame. That's why Kvike's so insane, because it's when it gets this, easy going schoolboy stuff where it just chews right through your 8% NEPA. It's just like this is
the
easy.
SAS of yeast.
It's like you call that a fucking battle, dickhead. What the fuck are you on? I
Just
chewed
chews
my
right
way through
through.
4 washing machines, a tree, half a country, and a glacier on my last beer. And now you're giving me this. And you think this is going to be hard? I'll have this done in under 20 minutes, son.
It's interesting though because
And I'll jump in the jar.
Actually, I did ask over to him, did they use Kvike? And the answer was no, because the problem with them is they can come out quite thin.
Yeah, they can. They do finish quite low quikes.
Yeah.
You've got to put
Makes
a lot of
sense.
effort in to get a thick beer with quike, I tell you.
Yeah, it's one of those yeasts where you kind of like saison yeast, and where it doesn't really matter where you mash out; it's just going to ferment the fuck out of it regardless.
It's
So,
not
I
going to
need
stop.
fermenter. Yeah.
It's going to be like the bullet train.
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go at 120 miles per hour, and I'm not going to stop until I get to my chosen destination.
It's the typical BMW rep, isn't it? Outside lane on a motorway, foot hard down, everybody else gets flashed. Fucking move. That's what it is.
Indicator on.
Yeah. So, the next one that we've got on the list is one that has actually caused a member of our little circle to have, well, 2 members of our circle, me being one of them, to have quite an impressive scar. Okay. And that is avoidable kit malfunctions. All right. They probably won't fuck your beer up. But they're certainly going to fuck you up. All right.
Correct.
Now, I've had, and I'll tell the story. So I used to brew on a table outside the kitchen at the back of the house. And I had my chiller, the twin chiller, patent pending. I had the twin chiller in the wort. So obviously that was at like 100 degrees because it's made out of copper. And then I had a hose pipe running to the drain. And I've got a little like bracket that I feed it behind and stick it down. Except I've moved the table. So I was actually at the other side compared to what I was normally at. And instead of turning, so when I killed the heat and I turned the tap on, instead of turning the tap on gradually, I just went, turn it on, it'll be fine. So full chat water going straight through, and cue boiling hot water from the middle of the wort spraying all over my back. Cue a blister about the size of a baseball and a small trip to hospital. We've just been joined by a prick in the chat. Fuck you, dickhead. Hide user. Yeah, fuck you. Right, next thing, we'll just delete all that. What a dickhead. Yeah. I love it when knobheads turn up. Yeah. Absolutely.
Look,
Yeah. Report. Harassment. That'll be hate speech, won't it? Yeah, we'll fuck him off. Yeah. Excellent.
That's
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, this guy needs a fucking lesson, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's merely only 70 or so years late, but
I mean, what a fucking numpty. I apologize for the chat that's currently in there, guys. This was obviously not something that we expected to happen. What an absolute fucking drongo. And I hope that he dies of gonorrhea and rots in hell. No, you've misspelt that one, you. Luke, there should be a U where the C is.
Grammar police.
No,
Back in
are you with
action.
it always?
Fucking bellend. So, after that small little detour of somebody's fucking idiocy, where were we? What were we talking about? Yeah, so I ended up with a massive blister
Scalding
on
yourself,
my back,
yeah.
and wonderful scar about the size of a £2 coin sitting on my back. And yeah, there we go. So, if you can avoid kit malfunctions, or the other member decided to pop a tube off of his and pour boiling water all over his foot, just avoid these kinds of things, because I mean your health is far more important than any batch of beer you're going to make.
I've done it with the B80. I ended up pouring hot wort all over my feet. Thankfully, I don't think it was boiling. I didn't end up sustaining any serious injuries, but you do have to be careful. You have to be very careful when dealing with exceptionally hot, sugary liquids.
I've come close to that a few times with the when using the pump, because I've got like a drain valve on the pump for, you know, releasing any airlocks and things like that. And if you start that running, coming back to the like leaving taps open thing, if you start that running, it basically will just jet hot, you know, wort straight out onto your legs and feet. So a couple of times when I've had to jump out the way of like, motherfucker,
try to kill you.
Yeah.
Jeez, oh.
Hazardous, this beer making stuff, isn't it?
I think I think this is one of those situations where having a plate chill is much fucking easier for your health.
Always hear on the live brew days. Always hear Chris giving clear, strict instructions to his kids to stay the hell away from his boil pot.
Yeah,
like
you've got to be careful with sproglets, mate. If you've
it's a serious point, like, you know, like children's, especially very young children's propensity to go for any kind of tap and automatically like yank the handle on it. Brewing equipment is just a fucking massive no-no for me. Like, you do not come in the garage when I'm doing this. I can just about trust Thomas at 6 to be around me, but I'm still like, do not touch anything, do not turn anything on, do not, you know.
Even when Oscar helps me with a brew day, I mean, he's 7 and he's fairly savvy as the lad, but even when he's helping me with a brew day, he does not touch tap. He doesn't. Because I'm really lucky as well. I've got the taps with like a guard slider on.
Yeah.
So unless you move the guard slider, you can't open a tap. But the bottom line is, all it takes is for them to work that out. And let's face it, he's gonna fucking work that out. It's not rocket science, but it does luckily keep Abigail away. And you know, you've got to be fucking careful with all this stuff.
Yeah,
you've got to be careful.
It's a direct route to social services visiting.
Yeah, and we don't want that, considering some of the other shit I've got going off.
But yeah, we've had a few other members, friends and stuff that have scalded themselves. I think like loose hose connections is probably a favourite, because what happens is you put a bit of pressure into it and all of a sudden the thing just jets straight off and it's all over you. So yeah,
I had a water pipe explode on me the other day. A water hose into my counterflow chiller. I think it was the exit pipe. I didn't have like a particular valve open to let the hot water come out of the counterflow chiller, and it just opened and just exploded. So that was it's just a tiny mistake. If you're just I didn't open that valve, whoops, and then there's like boiling water flying everywhere. You got to be careful. It's
not
fun. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Anyway, what about hop additions? Let's talk about hop additions being on the hop addition.
I think this is another one where probably everybody's done this at some point, of either throwing in the wrong hops at the wrong or right time, or just forgetting hop additions or whatever else. But it's again, for me, it's nowadays it's just like, if you're using software that's got alarms and stuff that tells you when to do things, it's makes it a lot easier for me to avoid it. Previously, when it was kind of like just, you know, running off of a brewing sheet or something and having to remember myself to do it, that was more likely to happen. I don't know.
I've been
chuck it all in the whirlpool.
For brutals,
one 400 gram edition in the whirlpool and you're sorted.
60 minutes, boom.
I was the latest like software update to the Brew system has integrated being able to send recipes from Brewfather to the Brew system.
Yeah, I wonder where they got that from.
Oh, genius idea.
Oh, wait there. I know exactly where they got that from because it's been on Craft Beer Pie for the last 6 months.
Well done, Craft Beer.
This is one of those iPhone versus
Alexander.
Android things, isn't it? Yeah. Everybody on Brew Tools celebrates it, but Android's had it for 6 months. Yeah. Sorry.
All right. That's all right. I'll stop there.
No, keep going on. Keep going.
No, that's fine. No, that's just.
I don't want to belittle your $3,000.
No, it's really cool. It's really cool. No, I think that's good.
All I wanted to say was I was impressed.
It's fucking awesome, isn't it?
It reminded me about what my Hop editions were, which normally it doesn't. So that was
anyway.
I can now even be.
I'll throw in a quick tip here for avoiding fucking up your Hop editions. I have a load of like plastic cups that I've marked with the usual sort of timings that you might have. So like I've got a 60-minute. 0 minute for Whirlpool, 15, 10, 20, whatever. So I've just got a bunch of those that I've just sharpied a timing on, and then I'll pick the ones that I need for the brew day, put the hops into those, and then line them up. And it makes it a lot
that's
easier not to fuck it up. Because I mean, even if I pick up the wrong one, I'll go, oh, that's the wrong time. Or,
Tricky, that's a fucking awesome business idea. I bet you there's tons of people that fucking buy a set of cups with timings written on them.
Especially if they're the Dudes Brews logo on.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, mate, that is fucking bank.
That's
stick a markup on those. Just buy some plastic pint pots and Sharpie a timing on.
Merch.
£5 each, guys. Cha-ching!
Unfortunately, you've just given away your secret.
Yeah.
So,
to be fair, though,
shucks,
that is the kind of thing that people will just throw away cash on. So if you were to do a set for a tenner, decent quality cups, they're not going to get fucked in the dishwasher, because let's face it, you're going to put them in there. Dudes Brews logo, Hop edition time on it, 60 minute, 45 minute, 30 minute, 20 minute, 15, 10, 5, flame out Whirlpool. If you've got them, 2 Whirlpool ones, obviously, because, everybody puts half a kilo in at Whirlpool. And then, you don't need one for dry hop.
Progressively bigger cups nowadays.
That's what it'd be. Genius. And to be fair, mate, that is bank. I mean, that is pro level cash.
It's going to be sort of the equivalent. It's like a middle-aged man's version of stacking cups for a 2-year-old.
And you can create a competition. People can put videos in of going. They do on the stacking cups things. I'm telling you, mate. I bet you money Brett the Bollard and fucking Lukey Stevens would buy them in a heartbeat.
I know another individual that would buy it now, but
yeah.
Do you think he'd go for the gold-plated set?
Yeah.
If it had Brew Tools written on it, it'd pay £1 million.
Premium set. Brew Tools endorsed.
Absolutely. So, do not fuck up your hop editions, because you don't want to do what I've done when I've been drunk and end up with a beer with 16,000 IBUs. Or none when you were expecting 30. So, yeah, there we go. So, boil, done. It's very easy to fuck up your boil. And it's just, it's a difficult time, because it's quite a stressful time, the boil, I find, because you've got all these different additions to add. It's the part of the brew day that really stresses me out. So Owen looks upset with me. I think I've annoyed him.
No, it sounded a little bit like you were like really genuinely talking about something quite heartfelt there.
I do. I genuinely think that the boil is stressful.
The boil's a hard time, And
it is.
I've been having a rough time of it. It's quite stressful at the moment, and that hour of my life is hard.
It is, mate. It is. It's a difficult wank.
Sounds like we need a support group.
We've got one, but unfortunately at the moment it's all about ribs.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the ribs I made today were fucking bomb.
Where was the photos?
What photos? They didn't last long enough for photos.
I was going to say that actually.
You've met
That's
Oscar, right?
There was no way there was going to be any photos. As soon as they came out of that Kamado, they were going to be gone.
There were 2 racks, okay?
Chris
One
isn't
rack.
the kind of guy to like Instagram his meals because they're just fucking an empty plate.
That involves not eating them. Right? So there was one rack. One rack went between Oscar, Abigail, and 2 of the ribs were left for my wife. And I had half of the other rack. So
2 ribs for the wife. Was she happy about that?
Yeah, she was more than happy. She got the thick end, so they were like proper meaty ribs.
I can see why your wife's like referred to your cooking as drama cooking.
Oh, mate, yeah.
When she only got 2 ribs.
Those brisket burgers were the shit, though, right?
Yeah. Yes, they were.
In fact, to be fair, Owen, I think you enjoyed the pork belly more.
I enjoyed every single bit of your cooking.
It was all good.
Never trust a thin chef.
I'm actually willing to drive for 5 hours. Anytime you're cooking.
He'll be back.
I'll drive to Leeds. I will get in my car and drive to Leeds.
So what you're saying, Owen, is when we come down to Southampton to visit Unity and Siren, I've got to arrive a day before to do all the cooking. Is that what you're saying?
If you want.
I think you might need to consult.
You've just got to like do it the day before and bring a massive cool box down.
Oh, mate.
You can reheat on.
Never trust a thin chef. That's all I'm saying. So, aside from stacking my own already considerable ego, let's move on to fermentation. So, Owen, I know you're a big fan of the fermentation side of brewing. We've had many conversations about fermentation. Yeah. So why don't you take us through the first point, the specific point about the wonderful, highly toxic element and molecule that we utilize so much during brewing?
Oh, would that be oxygen?
It would be, yes. It would.
Yeah.
Be, definitely.
So I think probably the first point is too much oxygen within your wort can be damaging for yeast health. It's an unlikely occurrence, to be honest, in most scenarios. Most homebrewers are not adding additional oxygen to their wort. A, because it's difficult to obtain. B, it's probably just one of those things you're going to be adding once you're really into proper advanced home brewing. So unless you're, and actually it's probably unnecessary on the most part, unless you're really into like high gravity brewing or lager production or whatever. For the most part, don't really need to do it. Actually, the challenge of too little oxygen, which personally, I'm not sure if I've ever really experienced myself. And I don't even splash my wort into the fermenter a great deal.
All right.
To be honest, I don't whisk it. I don't put an electric drill and a paddle into it. I don't shake it. I just run it off into the FV, and it seems generally pretty good. So, in all honesty, unless you're brewing high gravity beers, unless you're producing like high gravity lagers or whatever, I wouldn't worry too much about oxygen personally. But there is a risk that your yeast, if you do not pitch a decent, healthy amount of yeast, it is going to struggle to
stall out
properly replicate, grow, and you are going to end up with fermentation issues.
Just put olive oil in it, mate. That'll fix it.
Sure is.
Yeah, he's off with the olive oil shit again. Fucking hell.
Just chuck in a teaspoon of olive oil, mate.
That's that.
For those of you on the video, just check out Tricky's pensive face at the moment. He's kind of sitting there going, what the fuck is this olive oil shit? That's what he's doing.
Guys, if you want more advice akin to Andy, pop over to Homebrew UK Full of nifty tips.
That
Yes!
amazing source of fermentation information. Let's go to Homebrew UK.
They're considered, ahead of the time, real experts. They know what they're talking about.
Mate, where's the bevy badger?
Maybe Badger
we
loves
can
that.
sum that advice up by saying just siphon underneath that will be all right.
Yeah. The thing about oxygen is this: too much oxygen, especially with a highly whirlpooled wort, you can end up, believe it or not, with oxidation rather of your hop oils prior to the beginning of fermentation. So you can end up with too much oxygen in a heavily hopped beer. You can end up with basically that brown/purple beer before the fermentation is even begun, because oxidation does not take that long to happen.
Really?
It really doesn't. Yeah.
Because
And
I have a reasonably aggressive whirlpool on the B80. I've never really experienced that issue, but
No, I'm on about when you're transferring into the fermenter. So if you splash it in and then you give it a squirt of pure oxygen and then you pitch your yeast,
I think you're only ever
you can have
going
the
to be
issue.
concerned about it if you're adding pure oxygen, because I think theoretically the maximum dissolved oxygen you can achieve just through like splashing or vigorous stirring or whatever your method is going to be pretty low in terms of
Tricky's dropping science.
maximum,
I thought there was going to be a number there.
Maximum
I thought he was going to go like 0.8
ppm
0.8 per gallon.
There's a number. There's a number in one of the. It's the yeast book. I think the yeast book does have a number for this in terms of like dissolved oxygen.
I've read a few. I've read a few
like
numbers.
levels, and I've got a feeling I've got the number
Splashing.
eight like ppm in my head. That
Splashing doesn't give enough.
8 to 10 parts per million.
Well, you've got to remember with splashing, you're only splashing with 20% oxygen, because that's all that's in the air around us is 20%.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fairly low amount. It's those people who are squirting it with pure oxygen, they're the ones that are going to have the issue.
Yeah.
So don't do it. There's no point. Fucking no need at all.
It's important to remember that oxygen thieves are actually only taking 20%. So, yeah,
that's true. But the other 80% is nitrogen. Nobody gives a fuck about that. Just laying it out there, you know. I think oxygen is a delicate subject, and we don't want to piss off all of the Lodo boys, just most of them. And just make sure that when you're getting it in, I mean, being tricky, we fire ours in through a fucking pump. I've got a head like Andy's pulling a pint off my kegerator, you know what I mean? And then you pitch the yeast and everything's happy and away it goes and it does its thing.
Mine quite often goes in through a pump and then it's like getting filtered out through a muslin bag on the way into the fermenter anyway, because that's how I basically filter out my hops. Is rather than trying to use a filter in the kettle or bagging the hops up, I just fucking like blast through that. So it's like just.
I normally have Oscar hold the hose pipe, and he's most of the time pretending he's taking
get some
a piss.
Decent oxygenation out of that, I think. But you know,
there's the other thing is if you use dry yeast, you don't even need to worry about it because it's already got all the nutrient oxygen that it needs to basically do the job.
There's a lot of confusion around that one, I think.
True.
It tends to be if you're reusing or you're cropping yeast, and you know, going on future batches, you'll find that's when you start to hit issues.
Absolutely, yeah. So, moving on to the next step, because oxygen is a contentious issue. Massively under pitching. Tricky. Tell us all about this one since you've done a video.
Well, I think this is one that probably comes up more when you're using the liquid yeast, because we have the viability of liquid yeast is very, time dependent, and also there's the issue with some brands of liquid yeast. Essentially, there's not really enough yeast cells in there to be really hitting the optimum pitch rate anyway. Now, there is obviously quite a big margin here in terms of like what will be sufficient. And if it's reasonably fresh, it's probably, it is probably going to be okay. But a few months down the line, a standard packet of Y yeast or White Labs yeast is going to have a pretty low cell count in it in terms of what you're looking for in terms of your ideal pitch rate, which is why we've already talked about starters on here earlier on. And that's basically why it's so important for liquid yeast, because most of the time, if you just go straight in with a packet of liquid yeast, especially the White Labs and the Y yeast ones, you're pretty much going to be under pitching regardless of how old it is, and you know, unless you're doing either a super weak beer or very small batch size, because there's just not enough in there. So the difference when we mentioned Imperial and I think like Omega and WHC, these guys are basically packaging about twice as much. I think it's around about 200 billion as opposed to 100 billion cells on average, which means that you're going to pretty much cover most beers up to about 1060 OG at 20 to 23 liters relatively comfortably.
So everything I brew then.
Yeah, pretty much. So whereas the other ones where it's half of that, as soon as you start to lose viability, and we're talking like, let's say you're down to 50%, you're not pitching 100 billion cells, you're pitching 50 billion cells, your beer might have an optimum pitch rate of 150 billion. So you've got a third, you know, of your optimum pitch rate. Now, yes, it's probably going to start fermenting after a few days, but lag time is the thing that we want to avoid here. Extended lag times give other bacteria and, you know, whatever else has got into your beer in the meantime, an opportunity to get established. Wild yeasts, bacteria, etc. These are the things you don't want getting a foothold in there while you're waiting for your yeast to get cracking. Also, it's going to add extra stress onto the yeast, which is going to then potentially put out off flavors on its own while it's coming up to what you would consider a sort of active fermentation. So underpitching is obviously an issue in that sense, and a lot of the time that's going to come from using out of date or yeast that's not been kept or stored well, especially when you're looking at the higher gravity beers, because obviously your pitch rate goes up, you know, kind of correlates with the gravity of the beer. You need more yeast to successfully ferment out a high gravity beer. And also lagers, because if you are fermenting cold. Now, we've talked about pressure fermentation and stuff as well, which kind of puts it more into ale territory anyway in terms of pitch rate. But if you are if you are fermenting lagers cold, you're pretty much doubling up what your optimum pitch rate would be. Therefore, you need to pretty much always do some sort of starter if you're starting with a standard yeast packet in order to get anywhere close to that.
Okay, so the reason why we're all laughing is because Andy reckons there's a 3-inch spider in his garage. No, I'm not being funny, mate. If that's anything more than 1.25 inches, I dread to think what you've told your missus your cock
is. That
22 inch?
Is that man inches?
Go on, pick him up and bring him down here. Introduce him to the group. Come on. Owen, you're quiet, mate. You're quiet.
It does look like
quite
big.
There he is.
It does look quite big.
If it ain't got knees and it's not drooling, then I'm not interested. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe I'm with Andy and just like overcompensating.
Give up. That's not that big.
He's pretty big. Like, I'm not scared of him. I just think he's a bit of a beast.
It's a big wee beastie.
I just looked up there and I was just like, "Whoa, that's a big one."
I thought you lived in Scotland, not Texas. You know.
That's the Scottish huntsman spider that he's got there.
That's that.
Yeah, it's wearing a fucking kilt. Thank you for that, Chicky, because to be fair, that kind of sums up just about everything to do with it. So basically what you're saying is they may take our land, but they'll never take it. Right. Moving on. Owen, you crazy bastard. So what you're saying is make a fucking starter, right, Trick?
Make a fucking starter is the fundamental.
Yeah.
We got you.
on that.
Okay, so
Unless you're buying certain yeast brands. Anyway.
Yeah, I think I would argue this. I agree. Starter, yes, but please just pay attention to your yeast calculators. It's
Mhm.
as simple as that. Whether it's dry yeast, whether it's wet yeast, whether it's starters, whatever. If it says pitch 3 packets of yeast, pitch 3 fucking packets of yeast. I don't just go, I'll try 1, see what happens. Like, you'll just make shit beer.
I think it's a
It's
good point.
simple as that.
People
alright?
will talk about, oh, well, yeah, but it costs too much, blah, blah, blah. But if you're putting like 5-6 hours of your time into doing something and then you're quibbling over paying an extra £2 for a packet of yeast,
That's
if it's
it.
dry yeast, or
Just don't do it.
probably the same amount of money in terms of like malt extract to make a starter. It's like, really? Is that, what's more valuable here?
could we
Your
package
time or...
I think it's just actually it's lack of knowledge and just being like there's a lot of people and groups perpetuating a falsehood that pitch rates don't matter. Like the Bob from Homebrew UK going, I've always just pitched a 14-year-old pack of Boots yeast that came with a kit that I bought 85 years ago, and I always make good beer. You're like, I'm sorry, but it's just not going to happen. Pitch unhealthy yeast or underpitch yeast, and you're just going to make shit beer. It's
your
simple
beer's
as
going to
that.
taste like condoms, because that's what Andy says condoms taste like. Simple as that. And he'd know.
And it's simple, like get yourself a conical, get yourself a stir plate, get yourself some dried malt extract, start making starters. It's
And more
easy.
importantly, once you've bought the conical and you've bought the stir plate and you've bought the malt extract, these £10 packs of yeast don't cost you anything.
Yeah.
They don't cost you fuck all.
Yeah.
Seriously, just go back and listen to the yeast episode. I dropped some knowledge on that shit, and the number of people who've hit me up and gone, I didn't even think of that, is mind-blowing.
Or even when you get into slanting, and then you get into slanting, and you're like, well, now I've got basically an abundance of different yeast strains that if I'm organised enough, I can make beer with.
Seriously, Richard Brooks last night, I had a chat with Richard Brooks on a little video chat, and he just turned around to me and he said, I made a starter and it cost me 18p. He made an entire starter to make Persistently Bitter version 5, trademark pending. He basically made it for 15p, and he's like, because I had a slant of this yeast.
How's it so cheap? I thought
because
DME is
mainly because
going for a pish.
No, because he's got a induction hob, and he's got solar panels apparently.
No, I'm not talking about even fucking electricity cost. No, I'm talking about dry malt extract.
DME's fuck all, mate. You can get DME for next to nothing.
Oh, what was it? 3 kilos was something like 18 quid. Is that not right?
And you're going to use about, to make a 1 litre starter, about 109 grams.
Yeah, it's like 100 grams per. Aye.
So it's probably more than 15p, but whatever. It's still way fucking less than going out there and buying. Was it him who said that he had solar panels and induction hob? Anyway, it might have been someone else. It might have been someone else. But the point is, oh shit, Owen's fucked off again. He's probably kicked his power line adapter out of the wall, hasn't he? It's one of them things. It's like you can have a serious cost reduction on your yeast if you just pay attention.
Yeah,
it is not rocket science.
Yeah, no, totally. I do agree. But then you're also introducing. You could introduce issues where you could get infections in your yeasts or whatever. So if you're cropping and reusing and building and all that sort of thing, then there is a chance. And maybe not for us is it a big deal losing a batch, but say you've got a 20 hectolitre batch, you don't really want to be screwing that one up.
Yeah, but there's a difference between commercial brewers and home brewers.
Totally. That's the thing. Yeah, and it is.
So it all comes down to this. If I lose a 23-litre batch of beer, all I've lost basically is about £7.
It is, you've lost all the hours. Aye.
And 3 hours. That's it.
Yeah.
If I'm a commercial brewer and
No,
I'm trying to
it's not-
scrimp and save by doing that shit, then do you know what I mean?
I don't know if it's £7. I think it's about 8. What was it?
Gavin C's asking the age-old question about, is rehydrating dry yeast worth it? No, it isn't. It really isn't. Because all that's going to happen when you pitch it into your wort is it's going to rehydrate there. All you're doing is skipping a step that's costing you a bit of money and a bit of time. Pitch it dry and stop worrying about it. The rehydration's got to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
And even if you add half a teaspoon of granulated sugar to the water when you're rehydrating your yeast.
Whose phone's vibrating, by the way?
Mine.
Go on, put it in silent.
It is on silent.
Through. No, I mean just turn off the vibration or mute the Rubs chat.
Yeah, it's done.
Cool. It's just coming through.
It's fucking hell. I can't do outright me. It'll all come out in the editing, don't worry. So pitching yeast, massive thing. Tricky's come back as well. They're still fucking talking about that.
Are we still on yeast?
Jeez. Yeah. Let's move on from yeast and go to packaging too soon before fermentation is finished. Gravity readings, people. This is the one time when I don't fuck around, okay? Take a gravity reading of your beer. If you've got the same gravity reading for 2 days on a trot, package it. If they're not the same, don't do it. Not all yeasts finish at the gravity that they say. Not all beers are made the same. Your mash temp might be out by 2 degrees and it may finish 3 points lower. If you want to make bombs, piss off your wife by destroying
I think this is especially important for bottling. For people who are bottling, isn't it? Like,
if you
can get away with it to an extent with kegs because it's just basically like a secondary fermentation in the keg, and you might end up with a little bit more sediment at the bottom. But you know, you can control the carbonation and stuff on that and depressurize it and whatever, so it's not so much of an issue.
But Tricky, what ends up happening is you'll keg it. It's cold stored, so then it doesn't ferment out, and then you do a couple of here's some bottles, lads.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. To be fair,
then it re-ferments in the post.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, hence the problem that commercial breweries have when they bottle their or can indeed, and then Muggins fucking Bob goes down to the supermarket, buys some, and puts it in his kitchen cupboard.
Yeah. Or well, Sainsbury's have just got it sitting on the shelf, you know.
Hang on, just a sec. I need to apologise to everybody who's watching the live stream. I fiddled with the background image on the video stream, and for the last 2 hours and 22 minutes, whoever's been in the bottom right-hand corner has been partially covered by the Hop Edition logo. I've only just noticed it. My apologies, guys.
That's me.
You've missed Owen's beautiful face.
Yeah. Oh dear.
I've heard from Jay. I've been a fairly big fan of Sophia. So hi, Sophia. How are you?
Is who's that? Jay.
Yeah.
You're very quiet, by the way, Owen.
I'm very quiet. I said hi to Sophia.
Didn't you have a beer called Sophia, or was that Sophie? Sophie, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, that was Tricky, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's Tricky. Saison, Sophie.
What?
You had a beer, a Saison beer called Sophie.
What?
Oh, a Goose Island. Yeah, breaded
That's
Saison.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that was quite a nice beer, actually.
You fucking jizzed all over that bottle.
You did.
It did sound rather pleasant, though. I've got to be honest.
Can I just say how brilliant Brett's 4-bean stout is? I'm absolutely bloody loving this.
It disappeared quite quickly in my house as well.
So good.
God damn, that Talus in Wonderland is amazing. Right. Next one. If you want to make bombs, package it too early. If you don't, let it finish. Next one, rack into secondary. Don't fucking do it ever. Don't do it. It's stupid. Unless you've got an
a
empty
bright
stout,
tank.
don't fucking do it. Next one, cold crash casualties. Sucking up star sand, or worse yet, dirty yeasty water. Now,
Yeah.
this is where you should all have a Firmzilla, and if you don't, go and fucking get one.
Or have at least have a one-way valve.
Yeah.
Or put a balloon on
We're
the
straight back
end of
onto
the
the uni
blow-off
tank
tube.
versus Firmzilla
Or-
You can't
discussion.
crash.
Or swap out your blow-off tube for your lock. Because then it'll let you return without sucking it back in.
Yeah, well,
It
if you
will still suck up
S-type,
oxygen though, won't it? At that
you have
point,
an S-type
or
lock.
normal air. So
Yeah,
it's a bit of a trade-off, isn't it? You can do it that way, and then maybe you have a little bit of potential oxygen exposure. If you want to try and keep it like under CO2, then if you put a balloon on the end of the blow-off tube towards the end of fermentation, so it fills up, then that can deflate and get sucked back in when you're cold crashing, which is what I used to do before I had pressure fermenters.
And at this
Works quite
point,
well, actually.
At this point, I wish to mention those people who still perpetuate the lie that there is a blanket of CO2 that protects your beer.
The magic blanket.
If anybody tells you that there's a blanket of CO2 that protects your beer, first of all, punch them in the face. Secondly, kick them in the bollocks. And thirdly, point out if that was the case, everyone on Earth would be fucking dead. Okay? Because the CO2 would be sat at fucking ground level. We'd all die. Shut up. Fucking listen in chemistry class, you dickheads.
Right,
Sorry.
Calm down.
No, because that shit pisses me off.
Down.
That's basic fucking particle physics. You get taught it in year 7 at school.
Sorry, Dad.
Wankers. Go on.
So, what did you have to add to that, Andy?
The
I've
blanket
heard.
does work.
Guys,
Don't know what you're talking
I don't know
about.
if you've heard about this CO2 blanket thing.
Yeah, that's. I was reading.
Like, it
about
doesn't
this
matter
one.
if you open the lid as long as you don't disturb the CO2 blanket.
Yeah. Don't like. Be really careful when you open it,
You're fine.
and then put it in really quick, and then.
Wankers. Right. Let's move on to not properly sanitizing your equipment. The main thing that I was thinking of, I can't even remember who said that when we were doing the notes. It clearly wasn't Tricky. Somebody said not properly sanitizing your equipment. Now, my kit sits anywhere from 2 months to 6 months. It's been 6 months since I've done a brew. May the 16th was when I last brewed.
Shocking.
I know. And here's me doing a podcast, But the main thing for me is before I brew in that kit, it'll get pulled out, properly cleaned, properly sanitized, properly sorted, and then it'll be ready to brew. If you're not properly sanitizing your equipment, if you are not stripping down your ball valves, if you are not properly cleaning everything, if you don't rinse your tubing, if you don't spray everything down with Star San, do you even brew, bro? I mean, seriously? This is basic fucking cleaning. You wouldn't put your dinner on a plate that you'd licked clean after your last meal and shoved in the cupboard, would you? Unless you're a student.
Sometimes you risk it, you know what I mean? We're a danger.
Depends how hungry you are.
Unless you're a student, you've got to make sure that you sanitize.
If I've come in
the
after 10
microwave.
pints, fucking eat off the floor, mate. So
Just reheat it in the microwave, I'm sure. Just blast, nuke it. No,
to be fair, some of the kebabs I've had, you'd think.
you might as well.
You've got to make sure that you sanitize your shit, because if you don't, then there's something going to end up. Oh, Owen's fucked off again. He's frozen.
Okay.
Man. So yeah, just sanitize your shit properly so that you don't end up with these problems. I know we're preaching to the converted, and I know we've gone over these points before, but every so often you just have to remind people, okay, that there are consequences to your blithering stupidity. Okay, just make sure that you do things right, clean stuff, get it proper, job's done, job's a good one. All right, then you can brew beer and you're giving the yeast the best possible opportunity that they can have. Next one is one that I really want Owen to be here for. Owen, are you here?
I can hear you.
Turn the volume up a bit, mate, because I need to see what you're going to say to this one.
I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So the next way that you can fuck up a beer is too much wood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I've really had too much experience with, but I'd recommend.
Apart from that one night when you took the blue pill.
Well, listen.
But
What goes on tour stays on tour. You know?
That's what she said.
I may or may not have decided to age a bourbon imperial stout on some oak for possibly 18 months. It was an experiment. It didn't work well. So don't do it. Don't do it. Char it first.
Well, you say that. I mean, I think maybe it just needs a little bit of time to settle down. Like after, I think we talked about this at the time. Like,
after it's been bottled,
needs a bit of time off of the wood to.
It was
needs
amazing.
Another 18 months in bottle.
Tell you what, it was fucking brilliant when I blended it with that white stout, though. That was.
There you go.
That was really good.
I have to say that was one of the nicer Impy stouts I've ever had. The bottle had been in my fridge for a year. That was the better bottle.
Thank you.
But it was a beautiful, beautiful beer. Very complex, very drinkable.
It's not as good as Brett's 4-bean stout.
I mean, that's a matter up for debate.
I'm hands down saying this is probably the best homebrew stout I've ever drunk.
Wow.
Nice.
Holy shit.
And he's just told me he's got a Morello cherry and an almond version, which I'm willing to drive to Brighton right now to go and
hold on. You've had a few bevies on.
Yeah,
okay. Get a taxi.
I'm not going to drive right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive Monday morning.
Don't drink and drive, kids.
Brett, I'm coming for you.
The bollard's gonna get Owen.
He's coming for your cherry, Brett.
He's got his big wood.
He's gonna play with your bollard. Now
he's got a big wood.
Now the next one, I don't even know who wrote this. I do not remember this happening during the note taking. Who wrote "not enough fruit"?
Well, I wasn't there, but I'm slightly confused because I'm not sure. Like, what's this in reference to?
Who wrote this one?
Fruit for what?
I might have written that. I mean, I wrote the notes. It would seem the three of you
might have written it as he wrote the notes.
Basically writing anything on a computer.
I can't type.
Me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not enough fruit could.
I mean, for a fruit beer, yeah.
Potential. If you're aiming for a fruit beer, go big on the fruit. Otherwise, don't bother.
In other words, go big or go home.
Yeah, well, racking and packaging, guys. 3 points to go. With 37 points through 40.
So,
let's do it.
Don't rack onto a keg full of cleaner. That's
that's never good.
Make sure you
so many people that do that.
So make sure your kegs are clean, washed out, and sanitized before you put beer in them.
No, you forgot one important point. Empty. They need to be fucking empty.
Make sure they're empty.
Just on the fruit thing, you were saying, just go big in the fruit. On the tank tasting I had yesterday in the brewery, that was called April Pop, and literally there was like I got to the last bit and it was just pure actual bits of fruit floating in it. It was that thick.
Oh dear. I mean,
thick. So go big. Oh, I left that wee bit, but it was just like pure apricot. Insane. Insanity.
So
well, when you're drinking directly off the tank, I'd imagine you're like sucking in a good amount of the fruit just sat at the bottom of the tank, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing beats that last pint out of a keg that's 53% yeast, 47% beer. There's nothing beats it. Racking onto a keg full of cleaner, just don't do it. Right, make sure your shit's empty and purged. Then the next one is oxygen ingress. How many people have really just taken absolutely no care to minimize the amount of oxygen ingress that they get whilst they're kegging a beer. Whether that's treating the beer...
It's not even kegging, it's bottling. You transfer to a bottling bucket and everything's all open.
I'm sorry, I just assumed the entire world didn't bottle anymore. But yes, when you're bottling, there is a problem. But there are certain steps that you can take. Speak to Timmy Jenkins, he'll tell you. He knows all about the additions that are oxygen scavenging.
Absorbic acid.
Ascorbic, yeah.
Absorbic.
Fucking hell. She's not even going to bother. I love you, Owen. I really do, mate. And it's a good job I love you, because otherwise I could lose my shit right now. Fucking ascorbic. Vitamin C, dude. It's vitamin C. So yeah, just avoid oxygen ingress as best you can. And now bottle conditioning.
See, people do it.
Over priming or under priming. Do you want shit beer that's gone off or grenades? You don't want either. So prime the right amount.
Split the difference. Go somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Top tip.
No, nobody wants grenades.
Again, it's a
I don't know. The jeopardy of the bottle bomb is always quite fun.
Well,
some occasions.
Everyone likes a little gamble, don't they?
Exactly.
Like when you're going for a beer, let's just see if it explodes in my face when we get it off the shelf.
Also, it's always quite fun when you know that you've got those ones that are just on the brink to do that bottle opening and see how far into the atmosphere you can actually get the beer to fly.
No, it's
when
Adele's exploded.
Have you been brewing Belgian beers again?
Not recently.
I've had glass shards stuck in my roof.
Wow.
Really?
From
I've had one like a long time ago now, one proper bottle bomb where it was a glass bottle that did explode, but it wasn't too dramatic in terms of like the shards going everywhere. It just like blew the bottom out of it, so it wasn't too.
I have to say, at this moment in time, Owen is not showing up on the feed through video. Through OBS.
Oh, that's weird.
I don't understand why.
He dropped out
is not there
too many times, and
it would appear so. Can you guys on YouTube?
hear me? He's not on YouTube. I can see that myself.
Can you hear me?
I think they can hear you.
Fine.
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, I think Luke commented somewhere that he can be seen, he can be heard but not seen, or something. I don't know.
Oh, well, that's a shame. I am having some internet challenges this evening.
I love it how people call them challenges, but in reality, the whole world's gone to hell in a handcart.
Yeah, well, it's a problem. It's a big problem.
It's a massive problem. But we still love you, Owen.
Chris, put away the knife.
Yeah,
What
Jamie
knife?
just
it's
commented
clanging.
about
It's
you.
fucking the audio.
Sorry.
You mad bastard.
Yeah.
You're
Like
lucky
an
it's not the one
angry
that's up there.
scouser with his Stanley knife there, isn't it?
I think it was
Scouser. Did you just call him a scouser?
I said he's like an angry scouser with his Stanley.
Hey, calm down.
Have you met my mate Stanley?
Anyway,
Calm down.
bottle conditioning. Like, just listen. There are calculators online. Just go and use them. All right. It's straightforward. If you're going to bottle condition, all right, unless you're doing something complex like using Brett, which is a bit more complicated because Brett will basically eat everything.
I mean, I've seen the guy eat, and he does eat a lot.
He does, and I'm not talking about the Brett that made this beautiful 4-bean stout. I'm talking about Brettanomyces yeast.
I think that 4-bean stout's taken effect, isn't it, Owen?
Did I mispronounce?
Brettanomyces.
Did I? Brettanomyces.
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 Oh, I apologise. I apologise for my Latin po-far. Bunch of idiots. Go on.
Yeah, get that Nazi police back in.
It's a good thing they can't see my face on the YouTube channel.
What? Not giving a fuck?
Owen is currently sticking up the fingers
Yeah.
at the TV.
Several birds were flipped.
I don't know what you're talking about, Andy.
Owen, I still love you, man.
I've been cut
Oh,
cool.
he's back on.
Cool as a cucumber.
Somebody's celebrating the end of the podcast, I think. Woohoo!
This is,
Right,
This,
guys.
It's fireworks time.
It is so easy to fuck up a brew, but it is also so easy to avoid those problems. So, given I'm not allowed to play with a knife, I figured I'd play with my gun.
no.
So, just
That's much better for the audio.
yeah, totally. So just make sure you follow these simple 40 points, and your brew will be fine. And I think at that point, given the fact that we are only 2 hours and 40 minutes in, we should call this one, start the after party, and say thank you very much for listening to the Hop Edition. But before we go, the next episode's going to be a good one.
Yes.
Make sure that you're online for the live next podcast, because we have a very special guest with more knowledge in his little toenail that he recently trimmed than all four of us have. The man knows his shit, and so much so he's written a fucking book. So we have somebody coming on to the next podcast. You want to be here to listen to this one. We're all going to be like fucking fangirls, and this is going to be good fun. So until the next one, which is on what date is it that you confirmed with him, Owen?
4th of December.
So the 4th of December, the next podcast is going to be, and it is going to be a good one. So clear your diaries, tell the wife she can go shopping, watch Downton Abbey or something. Anything that gets you free to be able to watch this one live, because this one's going to be a good one. Look after your yeast, look after your kit. Don't play with Stanley knives. Guns aren't cool, kids. And whoever that prick was who turned up in our chat can fuck off and die.
Yeah, that was a Nazi police.
What a fucking arsehole.
Literally.
Don't fucking turn up in my fucking chat channel and give me shit, you wank puffin.
Right.
Yeah. Good.
So,
And on that note,
yeah.
Right.
We're out. Take
Signing
care,
out.
guys. Love ya.
Signing
Bye.
everybody.
No.
Bye.
Right.
Right, that's the recording done. Let's the 4th of December, Gavin, that's the one. So if you want to join us on the chat, in the video chat, by the way, there's a link, and the password is Andy is a lightweight. All one word. That's the password.
I was threatening of the not drinking tonight because I was quite hungover.
Yeah, don't give it that crap. You're not hungover at all, fucking pussy.
Nah, fine now.
Yeah.
He's
So
back.
there we go, people. Join us on the chat. We're going to kill the YouTube stream pretty soon. I'm just making sure that I've spelled Andy as a lightweight properly. I have. And the capitals are right. So if you want to join us, click that link, enter that password, get yourself on, and we will see you later.
Au revoir. Bye-bye.
Bye.